Good evening, everyone. I declare this meeting open at 7 p.m. and I would like to welcome councillors, council staff and members of the public to this evening's meeting. I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. I extend that respect to any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here this evening. As councillors of Ku-ring-gai, we should always be aware that the decisions we make affect the daily lives of those who we represent. Let us all make these decisions with the knowledge, goodwill and respect for the views of others. Before we begin, I would like to outline a few procedures in relation to this evening's meeting of council. This meeting is being recorded and live streamed, and the webcast commenced when the Mayor was seated. The webcast will be available on the council website, and only councillors and council staff will be shown on camera. Council meetings are open to the public as observers only. In line with the Code of Meeting Practice, members of the public can address council via the monthly forum. Council may close part of the meeting to deal with certain confidential matters in accordance with Section 10A of the Local Government Act. These discussions will not be open to the public or the press and will not be webcast. I want to remind everyone that this is a public meeting and we must all be respectful of each other. I remind councillors of their oath of affirmation of office made under Section 233A of the Act and printed at the front of the business paper. All attendees must comply with the Code of Meeting Practice and other relevant council codes, policies and procedures. Attendees must refrain from engaging in disorderly conduct, publicly alleging breaches of the council's code of conduct or making other potentially defamatory statements. Councillors and council staff must declare and manage any conflicts of interest that they may have in relation to any item of business that is on the agenda this evening. Clause 15.22 of the Code of Meeting Practice requires mobile phones to be switched to silent during the council meeting. Mobile phones may, however, be used to look up reference material such as council policies or government legislation. Are there any apologies for councillors? No. Are there any apologies for staff?
Mr. Mayor, there are no staff apologies.
Are there any conflict of interest declarations for councillors? Councillor Greg Taylor.
Yes, I have one conflict of interest. It's non-pecuniary, non-significant. It's for GB17, the Tiny Forest Project, and I will leave the room. It's in close proximity to my house. Thank you.
Okay. Any other declarations? And are there any conflicts of interest declarations for staff?
Mr. Mayor, I have not received any declarations from staff.
Are there any documents circulated in the councillors' papers to be dealt with at the appropriate time during the meeting?
Mr. Mayor, there are. There is Mayoral Minute 1 regarding a letter from the Minister for Planning and Public Spaces. In relation to GB4, there is a late report regarding Linfield Village Hub recommendation to enter into a project delivery agreement. Regarding GB19, there's a memo from the Manager Urban and Heritage Planning about a proposed heritage listing, 17A Edward Street, Gordon. There is GB20, a late report regarding the Linfield Village Hub withdrawal of commuter car park grant funding by Transport for New South Wales.
And are there any reports to be considered in a closed meeting and not released to the press and public?
Mr. Mayor, yes, there are 4 reports or attachments. Regarding GB10, drainage asset condition assessment using closed circuit television cameras, there's attachment 2 evaluation report. Regarding GB11, master plan implementation stage 1 Hassel Park St Ives, there is also a tender evaluation report. Regarding GB12, Eldon Hope Green Playground upgrade. There is also an attachment tender evaluation report. And for GB 18, Firs Estate lease of retail shop and restaurant, there is another attachment for a tender evaluation report.
So I seek a motion for these reports to remain confidential. Moved by Councillor Pettet, seconded by Councillor Ward. All those in favour? It's unanimous. Can I please get a motion to confirm the minutes of the previous meeting? Moved by Councillor Pettet, seconded by Councillor Lennon. All those in favour? That's unanimous. Okay, so we're up to mayoral minutes. There is just one, which I will read. Letter from the Minister for Planning and Public Spaces. Yesterday, on Thursday, 9th of November, Ku-ring-gai Council staff and the Mayor received a letter from the Minister for Planning and Public Spaces, the Honourable Paul Scully MP, dated 30th of October 2023. In summary, this letter states that as part of the National Housing Accord, the New South Wales Government is committed to commence the construction of 377,000 homes by 2029. That there is a limitation in 33 out of 35 Greater Sydney local environment plans, and that prevents terraces, townhouses and residential flat buildings, i.e. manor houses, from being built in R2 low density residential zones. There is a limitation in 53% of Greater Sydney LEPs that prevents residential flat buildings, i.e. apartments, from being built in R3 medium density residential zones. That all councils are called to immediately play their part in identifying locations which permit more low and mid-rise homes, and that the letter be tabled at the next council meeting so that the state government's intentions are clear to councillors. This letter is ambitious, and given the timing of the next council meeting, with registrations to speak at the public forum due 5 p.m. Monday 13th November, I thought it would be important to make this letter available to the public as soon as possible by way of mayoral minute, so that residents can consider and make representations regarding the letter. It is my understanding that council staff may provide more detailed commentary as a late item to the November ordinary meeting of council, or as an item for the December meeting. In the interim, I will provide my initial thoughts below. I believe that any change to local zoning and/or any changes to what is permitted to be built within a zone should go through a public consultation process. Our residents want to have a say in what should be built and where. I have concerns about what we are seeing in other local government areas where the residents and the council have formed a view on what can be supported within a particular area only for the state government to override and impose greater density. I recognise that there is demand with some residents of Ku-ring-gai for townhouses as a downsizers housing option. We have residents who do not require large gardens or large homes, but do not want to live in a small apartment either. As a council, we should consider whether the preference for townhouses can be sympathetically accommodated. However, I do not think allowing townhouses in R2 low density zones is the right solution. Ku-ring-gai's current approach is for standalone houses in R2 low density, multiple homes including townhouses in R3 medium density, and apartments in R4 high density. This approach is intuitive for residents and easy to apply. I therefore have concerns about the hinted at proposal to put townhouses in R2 low density residential zones and apartments in R3 medium density residential zones. It is a shifting of the goalposts that will have unintended consequences, such as significantly increasing Ku-ring-gai's human population without necessarily the funding for or provision of adequate infrastructure, such as transport, stormwater, education and recreation, to support the increase. The significant loss of tree canopy in Ku-ring-gai, which is vital to protecting our biodiversity as well as to support our climate change resilience, and a permanent change in the character of our LGA, including potential impacts to our heritage conservation areas. From an achievability perspective, it will be difficult for councils to undertake such a rezoning program on short notice. Each program requires significant unbudgeted resourcing, financial and human capital, and there are already industry-wide shortages of town planners and other people with relevant capabilities, with many seeking higher pay in the private sector or state government. Further down the supply chain, there is also a similar industry-wide bottleneck for appropriately skilled people to assess development applications, as well as bottlenecks with sourcing the right skills and equipment to commence construction of these homes up to an acceptable standard by 2029. The activity may feel further inflation. Council has previously explored options for additional housing diversity through the local strategic planning statement and the local housing strategy. However, there needs to be appropriate public consultation before any of these elements are revisited. It appears ambitious to expect Council to effectively implement these changes in a short 2-year, 9-month Council term, and with caretaker mode commencing in 9 months' time on 16th August 2024. The reality is that most of the relevant decisions may have to be made by a new set of councillors in early 2025 at a time when they are not adequately familiarised with the situation or with industry terms. As Mayor, I do have these concerns plus much more. My suggestion is that we should wait for further feedback from council staff before taking the next step. And in the meanwhile, we should be open to public feedback on this matter. So the recommendation here is that A, that council notes this Merrill minute and awaits further feedback and recommendations from council staff on the implications of the Planning and Public Spaces Minister's letter, and B, that following the feedback from council staff, the Mayor writes to the Planning Minister to outline council's concerns on the feasibility of what is proposed. I'm just checking to see if anyone would like to speak on this matter. No? If not, we will put this matter to a vote. All those in favour? That is unanimous. We now move to petitions. So I'm asking to see if there's any petitions to be received. Councillor Greg Taylor.
Yes, I have one petition. It's relating to dog parks. It's from residents of Turramurra living on Duff, Denman and Holmes streets. The gist of the petition, I'll read a section of. We would like council to explore further dog off-leash facilities in the local area, as it will bring significant benefit and enhance our community. There is a large and passionate group of local residents who are very enthusiastic about re-establishing the support network and community spirit found when having a regular and safe meeting area. The petition also proposes a number of solutions, and which is to trial a timed off-leash area at Boyd's Orchard Park, or dog parks at Duff Reserve or Hamilton Park in Turramurra. There are 7 signatures representing 13 people, and I just move that this petition go to the relevant officers in the council for noting and actioning.
Do we have a seconder? So seconded by Councillor Wheatley. All those in favour? That's unanimous. So the petition will be presented to the appropriate officer. Now we're up to general business. I would like to invite councillors to nominate any items on the agenda that they wish to have a site inspection for. Any site inspections? No? Can I please ask a councillor to nominate any items on the agenda that they wish to adopt in accordance with the officer's recommendation, allowing for minor changes without debate? Councillor Spencer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So it is, I intend to move GB 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8, 9.
7's withdrawn.
Withdrawn. I'll just carry on and then I'll repeat again, okay? If that's all right. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16.
11 and 12 withdrawn.
So where were we? 16, 17,
17 withdrawn.
18? No? How about 19? No? All right. I'm just checking. So I'll just repeat again. I'm just checking if he wants to withdraw. So, all right. So now I'll go through GB1, GB2, GB3. 1, 2, 3, 6. No, 8, 8, 9, 10, 13, 14, 15, 16, 18, 19. Did I miss anything? No, I'm not moving 20.
So seeking a seconder, Councillor Alec Taylor seconding. So all those in favour, that is unanimous. Anything else that you would like to move without further debate? NMs, no further debate. Okay. We'll move on then. So we're up to general business, and we're just going to do it in sequence of these items here. So the first one is, I think we can, GB4, I'm just going to move that we note the council staff's report. Seeking a seconder, that we note the report. Councillor Greg Taylor. Does anyone, I don't need to speak on this. Does anyone want to speak? No. Let's put that to a vote. All those in favour? That is unanimous. Okay, GB5, Arts and Culture Advisory Committee. Seeking a motion by someone? Councillor Greg Taylor.
I'd like to nominate myself for the chair. Sorry, I'd like to move the motion there, please.
Yes. So you're seeking to move
The staff's recommendation.
staff's recommendation with particular nominations for chair and deputy chair.
I'd like to nominate myself for chair and Councillor Ward for deputy chair.
Okay. So that's a motion. Is there a seconder to that? Councillor Wheatley. Okay. Councillor Greg Taylor, would you like to speak to this?
I think I'll reserve my right.
Okay. Councillor Wheatley, a seconder, would you like to speak?
I think that the two candidates that we've put forward are the right candidates for the positions.
Thank you. Councillor Pettit.
Yes, I'd like to move an amendment, and the nominees for chair are Councillor Lennon and the deputy chair is Councillor Ward.
It's very kind of Councillor Pettit, and I would generally be honoured to do so. In this particular case, I'd like to support Councillor Greg Taylor in the position.
So, Councillor Pettit, would you like to still move that amendment and see? No. Okay. Councillor Kay.
I'd like to move an amendment for Councillor Greg Taylor as the chair and Councillor Lennon as deputy vice chair.
Okay, so that's moved by Councillor Kay. Is there a seconder? Councillor Pettit seconding. Okay, Councillor Kay, would you like to speak to this?
So can I speak? I mean, it's a great honour, and thank you, Councillor Kay, but again, in normal circumstances, I'd be delighted to be chairman or the deputy chairman of this extremely important committee. In this particular case, with my friends and illustrious colleagues' names up, I just respectfully and gratefully decline, if I may.
So, Councillor Kay, would you like to withdraw that amendment, or?
Yes, of course.
Sorry, you already have a seconder.
Yeah, we did. So, but we're going back now to what Councillor Greg Taylor moved and Councillor Wheatley seconded, which is Councillor Greg Taylor as the chair and Councillor Ward as the deputy. Would anyone else like to speak on this matter before we put to a vote? If not, we will put this to a vote. All those in favour, raise your hands. So that is Councillors Kay, Spencer, Lennon, Smith, Wheatley, Councillor Alec Taylor, Councillor Greg Taylor, Councillor Ward and Councillor Nye. Against is Councillor Pettit. I declare that as passed or as carried. Next up, we have GB7, Analysis of Land and Environment Court Costs, first quarter 2023 to 2024. Councillor Pettit.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to move the officer's recommendation, and I'll ask him to speak to it.
Sure, go for it. Is there a seconder? Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Obviously, the Land and Environment Court costs are near and dear to all of council and council staff and councillors' hearts. Just a quick question through you, Mr. Mayor. Can we get an updated cost from the court action brought against council in regards to Norman Griffiths?
So the corporate lawyer is coming to provide an update.
Mayor and councillors, the report you have before you tonight is concerning the development assessment budget, so that appeal isn't mentioned, but I'm happy to take that question on notice and provide that information to council by memorandum.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. While you're there, and this will follow on from the Endgame court case, were we able to ascertain who were the members of this particular group that took legal action against us, apart from Dale Crosby, who was the registered officer? Do we know who else was involved?
I'm not in a position to provide you with any information tonight on that. I think there was some limited information obtained, which I just need to refer to, and I can provide that information with the cost information.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Councillor Kay, a question to you. You're on the Ku-ring-gai Chamber of Commerce, of which Dale Crosby is also a member of that particular committee. Did you garner any information from Dale about that particular organisation and who the members were?
No, I didn't, thank you. And just clarifying, on that committee, I do not have any voting rights. I do not turn up to meetings. Just to clarify my involvement, I'm not actually on the committee. I've become a council representative, but I do not attend the meetings, nor do I vote. Or did I attend the AGM?
Thank you, Councillor Kay. I just asked that question because on the website it's got you there as part of the broader committee. So obviously that's where the inference was drawn from.
Yeah, no, I understand, and that was done originally when the committee had commenced, but there's been changes thereafter, and they probably just haven't updated their website. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kay. Perhaps you could convey that they should actually get their act together and update things, if you wouldn't mind, as the council representative. Can you do that?
I can engage and endeavour to do that. Thank you. Councillor Pettit.
Thank you, Councillor Kay. Much appreciated. Councillors, the Land and Environment Court costs are one of those things that people don't tend to look at too often. It is a significant drain on council, and council's staff do their best to mitigate and reduce the court costs. Unfortunately, we will never get to a point of zero. Much as we would like that people would do all the right sort of things and tick all the right boxes, unfortunately they do not. So I'd like to commend staff in this area in reducing and continue to endeavour to work with various proponents and people who put in DAs so that we don't end up hosing away hundreds of thousands of ratepayers' money on court costs. So thank you, council staff.
Councillor Smith, as seconder, would you like to speak on this item?
No, I'll reserve my right. Thank you.
Are there any other speakers? If not, let's put this to a vote. All those in favour? It is unanimous. Next is GB11, RFT 7 of 2023, Master Plan Implementation Stage 1 Hassle Park St Ives.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to move GB11 if I could seek a seconder.
So moved by Smith, seconded by Pettit, who put his hand up first. So Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I would just like to move GB11, the implementation of stage 1 of Hasselpark St Ives. I would also like to thank the staff and all their work that they've put into this. I think it's going to be something that the St Ives community will very much appreciate and look forward to it. So thank you to all. So I seek that this be supported.
Councillor Pettit as seconder.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. And certainly having been down to Hassel Park a number of times, there are issues there. It is a bit tired. There is certainly improvements to be done, and it is, congratulations, particularly Councillor Smith, for moving this particular item. He's been down there for various presentations and is very much involved with the St Ives Rugby, St Ives Cricket, and to see these facilities upgraded and the surface and the whole shebang, it is showing that our ward councillors are delivering for Ku-ring-gai. And with Councillor Smith being in his second term, I've seen Councillor Smith become a better and better councillor, fighting for his community, fighting for the area of St Ives, and I am sure the entire community of St Ives will greatly appreciate this upgrade. Thank you.
Are there any other speakers on this item? If not, we'll put it to a vote. All those in favour? That is unanimous. Next up is GB12, RFT 9 2023, Eldon Hope Green Playground Upgrade, seeking a mover. Councillor Pettit, seconder. Potential sec. Well, what do you plan to move, Councillor Pettit?
Just pick one second.
Oh, the officer's recommendation? Yeah, okay, officer's recommendation, seconded by Councillor Ward. Councillor Pettit.
Again, staff, one of the things that Ku-ring-gai Council does exceptionally well, and that's congratulations to Director Bonassif's area, is upgrading of our playgrounds. Every one that we have done has been exceptional, well received, and the quality of the build is just fantastic. Our staff go above and beyond, and I think we can be proud of our playgrounds. We've had a number of done in Wahroonga Ward, and also the longevity of the one there at the Ku-ring-gai Park, which was done many years ago, and that's standing the test of time with the equipment. One of the good things about being a mayor, you get to go around and see the opening of these parks. And the one that I did recently in Wahroonga, we had people going there before it was actually open, and they were actually using it. So these are ways that council invests ratepayers' money back into the community for facilities that they really, really enjoy. We recently upgraded ours in West Pymble. Again, small area, but a job well done by council staff. Everybody likes it. Everybody uses it. So the more that we can upgrade our playgrounds to bring them into the 21st century, the better. And it also is a testament to those that tender for our playgrounds. We get to see those tenderers re-tender over and over again. A number of those are successful. And that is a testament to the work that they provide and the value for money that they provide for this council and for the residents. So, 2 more playgrounds on the way. And for those in the gallery that are unaware, we will be losing our Director of Operations shortly before Christmas, which is our loss and somebody else's gain. And on behalf of the Tomonara Ward and the areas that you've looked after, and I'll be informal, George, thank you for the time that you've spent at Ku-ring-gai. You have always been a person that we're here to serve, we're here to help, living the dream. We certainly are, George, and life in the fast lane. So thank you, Director Bonassif.
Councillor Ward as seconder.
I concur with everything Councillor Pettit said. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Are there any other speakers? If not, let's put this to a vote. GB12, all those in favour? It is unanimous. Next up, we have GB17 Tiny Forest Project. So I'll give Councillor Greg Taylor the opportunity to step outside for a moment while we consider this item. So GB17, Councillor Jeff Pettit,
I'd like to move the officer's recommendation.
seeking a seconder. Councillor Kay this time came first, so it's seconded by Kay. So Councillor Pettit.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It was wonderful to see so many hands go up so quickly for this particular item. The Tiny Forest Project. Who'd have thought this would ever come about? And the residents of West Pymble, what a perfect location. Absolutely outstanding. Got the West Pymble Mall there, literally across the road. Now, this particular location has been identified as a suitable site for tree planting within the urban forest strategy. And the southern boundary has been chosen in the past as a National Tree Day site. West Pymble delivering. Tree species to be planted will be indigenous to the site, which at West Pymble Village Green is Sydney Turpentine Iron Bark Forest, or STIF. As we know, this is critically endangered, and West Pymble is going to be the flagship for this particular project. And it's good to be able to promote West Pymble, which actually is shared with Gordon Moore. The boundary actually does go through part of it. So a win-win situation for Commonara and Gordon Moore. It's not too often we get to say that. We actually we're sharing the love here. I would hope that this Tiny Forest project is just the start. It's been a long time coming. We have a norm later on in regards to trees and the preservation of trees. So perhaps with these sort of projects, we can educate our residents. The tree is not just a tree, it is a habitat. It's for animals, it's for the birds, it's for the whole shebang. It is for our well-being as well too. So rather than this particular location just being a flat, grassed area, which is fairly large, it's about 4,000 square metres if memory serves, it's actually going to be converted into a tiny forest project. Something which we councillors can be proud of. And hopefully other NESROC councillors might say, geez, Ku-ring-gai aren't doing too bad. Perhaps we should jump on that sort of bandwagon. It is good to be part of a council that leads by example, that takes a concept, runs with it, and brings it to fruition. So I'm sure councillors, the number of hands that went up to second this will be unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pettit. Now, Councillor Kay as seconder.
I'll reserve my right this time. Thank you.
All right. Seeing if anyone else wants to speak on the matter. If not, let's put it to a vote. All those in favour? It is unanimous. May I ask someone to get Councillor Greg Taylor to return? Next up is GB20, Linfield Village Hub, withdrawal of commuter car park grant funding by Transport for New South Wales. Councillor Greg Taylor is stepping in. I'm seeking a motion for GB20. We've got Councillor Spencer's light. So, Councillor Spencer, you're moving something?
Yes, thank you. It should be on screen. I will read it when it's on screen.
I think there's potentially a different version.
Yeah, that's not the version. Yeah, that's right. So there it is.
Would you like to read it out?
I will. So essentially, I'm moving this as a motion that Council A...
Oh, wait. So just confirming, do we have a seconder for what's on the screen? Councillor Smith seconding it. So, Councillor, it's up on the screen. Everyone should be able to see it.
I'll read it.
Councillor Spencer, would you like to talk to it?
So that Council A authorised the General Manager to implement the action plan at confidential attachment A1 with the addition of an extra point as per Christopher Jones's email sent out on 21st November 2023 at 6:36 p.m. B. Make urgent recommendations to the New South Wales government seeking a commitment to continue to fund the Linfield Village Heart commuter car park. And C. Defer the decision to enter into a project delivery agreement and report back at an ordinary meeting of council.
So, as mover, would you like to speak to this motion?
Well, I think we received this today, and it came as a shock to most of us. I dare say that I would be speaking on behalf of most of the councillors here to say that we're all very keen to progress and deliver. However, the loss of $9.8 million now, today, at the very last minute, will require us to have a quick review of the project. And then the general manager will come back to give us options, as we discussed in the confidential attachment action plan. There are 3 points there which I can't discuss in the open meeting. And at that time, we would then decide what is the best option to go with. But at this stage, to be quite honest with you, I was looking forward to proceed with officer's recommendation, and this thing came about. It's a spanner in the works, and the sooner we can review this whole thing, the better it is. Thank you.
Councillor Smith, as seconder, would you like to speak?
I'll reserve my right, thank you.
Right. Councillor Greg Taylor.
I'd like to move an amendment that we go with the original motion that was put forward from council. So minus the additional documentation that was discussed in the late agenda request.
Okay, so officer's recommendation as seconder for that, Councillor Alec Taylor. Councillor Greg Taylor, would you like to speak to this?
It's very limited what I can say about this, so I think we all understand what I'm talking about because of the confidential nature of it, so I'll reserve my right to say.
Okay. Councillor Alec Taylor as seconder.
I'm not particularly averse to the amendment to the original motion, but I think that we need to focus on trying to make this happen, and I still have hope that the opportunity to build these community facilities and to follow through on this project is live, and the intent for the original motion, which is now the amendment, is to simply do our best to try and make that happen before the December meeting.
Councillor Pettet.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Obviously, with losing almost $10 million, this project, which was meant to be self-funding with one site sold, then morphed into 2 sites being sold. We now have the extra spanner having been thrown in that $10 million worth of commuter car parking has been pulled. So does this sound like this project is going to go ahead and is financially responsible? Possibly not. If you refer back to Port Macquarie Council, when they continued to press on with a particular project over a number of years and it blew out horrendously, what happened to that council? It got sacked. It was financially irresponsible. It put the council in jeopardy. We already know that this project is not self-funding for one asset to replace another. We are selling 2 assets. Now to find an extra $10 million on a wing and a prayer that the state government is going to be so generous and say, look, by the way, I know you're good guys, you can keep your $9.8 million and away we go. They're not going to do that. Why would they show favour to one council in a Liberal area? Chances of that are 2, none and buckets. So let's be realistic. If we need to find another $10 million, we have already committed the old Linfield Library site. We're throwing as much of that in as possible. Now we've got to find another $10 million. Not going to happen, is it? Unless we decided to sell more sites, and we don't want to be doing that. The residents don't want us to be selling off the farm and the fence and the animals just to build one project. It is financially irresponsible. So I will be voting against this amendment. We know what the original motion that Councillor Spencer put forward is a more sensible option. Throwing more money after a bad deal will never make it a good deal. Simple as that. We don't have a bottomless Bicky barrel full of cash, do we? We now have a bucket with a whopping big hole in it, thanks to our friends in Macquarie Street pulling the plug out of that bucket. This project is leaking money faster than ever before. Yes, it has taken 10 years. 10 very, very long years to get to this particular point in time. And unfortunately, it's not getting better for us. Now, wing and a prayer hope that the state government gives us back the money. Don't like our chances. So we might need to buy some lottery tickets and hope for the best. We'll go down to Star City, play some money on it. Put $5 million down, red or black. See if you can double your money. Let it pay for it. That'll get us our $10 million back. Likely of us doing that, not much. So I will be voting against this amendment. So for those in the gallery, please be realistic. We cannot continue to throw money at a project that is not self-funding, is not now definitely not financially viable. Much as we'd like to have it, and remember, councillors, we had all those grand plans that were thrown at us. Remember the pedestrian bridge? Imagine if we threw that little baby in. There's another 10, 15 or $20 million for a pedestrian bridge. Wow, more money down the gurgler. So councillors and residents, we've got to be realistic. Not getting the 10 mil. It's not looking good. This thing is on life support. Big time. You're almost calling the priest. He's got his rosaries out and ready to give it the last rites.
Next is Councillor Spencer.
Thank you. I would have to speak against the amendment. So firstly, without going into confidential, the original motion does not seek to discontinue the project. It is very similar, in fact identical to this amendment, except that the original motion gives us time to properly explore and cover all angles and report back. Nothing is changed. There is no suggestion that we are not proceeding at all. If you look carefully, compare the two, they are identical. It is just that the original motion seeks to have a more thorough study of what's going on. So, for instance, today, we were about to go ahead and vote on this. And then, at the last minute, we received this letter saying that, hey, guess what, you're $10 million short. It is like, say, my wife wants to buy a Model Y, okay, and we're off to buy a Model Y, Tesla. And then we go all the way there and we're gonna buy, and then just as we were to sign the contract, I pull up my phone and I check my bank balance. Damn, I'm $10,000 short. I can't proceed. I'm not saying I'm not buying. I need to think of another way to get that car. Well, the original motion does not seek, again, to discontinue the project, does not seek to change anything, does not seek to alter anything. The original motion is similar to this, but it asks for a more thorough, comprehensive study. So now, assuming if coming back to the car example, assuming if in haste, and I say, look, just buy it, never mind, I'll borrow, no, hang on, I can use my credit card, I'll just pay the 10,000 using my credit card. And then you know it's 22% interest there. So after buying the car, I'll be happy and so on, but then I'll know that in the next few years, I'll be regretting, thinking, why didn't I think carefully? Aren't there better options? Instead of using my credit card, I could have maybe get a finance. I could have sold something. I've got some guitars that's worth a little bit of money. I could have sold those, and put the $10,000 into the car, something like that. So the original motion just seeks to do that. This motion is suggesting, I want the car right now. I don't care how I'm going to get that $10,000. I know I'm short $10,000. I don't care how it is. I'm going to buy it right now. So take out the credit card, zap $10,000 from there, and worry about the interest and all that later on. I think that is a little bit dangerous. So as I said earlier, I think we're all quite disappointed that this thing happened today. Came as a shock. No one knew what we're supposed to do. In fact, it was this evening we started talking about it, and we're thinking of what should we do? How do we carry on and this and that? And for instance, sorry, where was that? That's right. I probably can't discuss that. I can't discuss that. But in the confidential items, they're there, and you guys, the councillors, know what it is. We are still proceeding with those things. We just need to have a more thorough study. Thank you.
Councillor Smith.
Mr Mayor, as much as I would like to support the motion that Councillor Greg Taylor put forward, I just can't, for all the reasons we've been speaking about tonight. I am very much in support of Councillor Spencer's motion. We need to explore all options that are available to this council. I think as a council, in every ward that every one of us represent, it is our responsibility that we do not leave a stone unturned. I think that unfortunately, the New South Wales State Labor government does not hold too much, what's the word I'm looking for? Got to be a little bit careful here. Don't hold us regard in a nice regard or of any sort of fairness, because what they've actually done here this evening is completely disgraceful. We've got a state government where we've been given the money to actually use, and on the 11th hour, when this council is here to make a decision, they decide to pull it on us. So hopefully the members of the community will see what the Labor government did to us this evening. I think it's also very important that we look at all options, is because our long-term financial plan is in chaos at the moment. And to chase this any harder or any further would put this council at risk, and there's no way of mitigating that. I think it's important that we continue to see what can be achieved, but at the same time, I think it's important we know when to stop. So I will not be supporting this. Thank you.
Councillor Alec Taylor, do you have a question?
Yes, I do. So through you, Mr Mayor, I think probably to the General Manager or possibly the Head of Projects. My question is, I got a little bit of the heebie-jeebies when I heard Councillor Spencer talking about credit cards, Is there any suggestion in any of the documentation tonight that we would take out a loan or line of credit or anything in order to make this transaction happen?
Through you, Mr Mayor, no, there isn't any debt relating to this project.
Thank you.
I would like to speak, okay, and then afterwards, Councillor Ward. So I will speak in favour of this motion. First of all, I would like to share that I do have the disappointment, as do many other councillors here, that this was pulled on us on the 11th hour. I'd even say at 11:59. All of a sudden, we just find out on the day that what we were about to potentially do isn't possible in its current arrangement. We already had media team ready to go. We already had potential announcements. We were going to celebrate that after a long time we would be able to proceed with this project. It's been a long time, and it didn't quite go the way I wanted it to go. It detoured from the path that I wanted it to go 5 years ago. But at least we got here, and we were about to sign it. We were about to proceed. We were about to have a development application next year. And for this to be pulled on us, it is incredibly disappointing. I would also like to say, though, that, look, given how short a notice we've been given as a governing body with this new information, what I'm seeing here is 10 councillors, 10 members of the governing body who each deeply cares about Ku-ring-gai, who each has a different opinion of how we would get there, but each of the 10 of us here care. And given the short period of time that we've been given with this information, we're handling the information, we're processing the information in different ways, with different responses, with different numbers in our head, that sort of thing. Personally, I would disagree with some of the statements made by Councillor Petit, but at the end of the day, I'm not going to pick a fight over it. I can see where this is going. At the end of the day, though, each of us are well-intended, and I want the members of the public to respect whatever the council decision is here on the floor of council today. Personally, I am in support of the officer's recommendation here. I don't think this is using a credit card. I don't think this is a rush or anything like that. It is to go out, further negotiate, and come back with an update in December where we may or may not proceed with anything. There's no commitment whatsoever. So I believe that what the officer's recommendation says has been misrepresented. Having said that, I fully recognise at 11:59, with such short notice to all 10 governing body members, we're all processing this decision in a different way, and for that we just need to respect it. And on that, I would actually like to call 2 for, 2 against, because we've already had a number of speakers on this. Let's put that to a vote. So 2 for, 2 against, just moving to a vote on this. All those...
You're moving a procedural motion.
I'm moving a procedural motion that, given that there have been more than 2 for, 2 against speaking on this matter, that we put to a vote on whether or not we should put this to a vote. So those in favour of putting this to a vote, alternate motion to a vote now, that is Councillors Lennon, Alec Taylor and Councillor Nye. Those against would be everyone else. Okay, we now continue with the debate on Councillor Petit.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I've got a question. We've got in point C that the report back to the December ordinary meeting of council. To the acting general manager, what are the chances of getting a report on the business papers for next Tuesday? Is that going to be a challenge for you, given that NOMs normally close on this Friday?
Through you, Mr Mayor, it is a short time frame, but we will definitely be able to get an update in that period, and we would probably submit a late report as well to update it.
Thank you, Acting General Manager. To you, Mr Mayor, we always talk about transparency and openness and keeping the residents informed. Given the likelihood that this won't be on the business papers, do you believe that's fair to dump this report on the residents literally a few days rather than the normal 2 weeks? Do you think that's fair and good business practice?
I do believe that on this particular occasion, given that the content of the report suggested in point C would have been confidential anyway, that it would have actually made no difference whether it was prepared and ready 2 weeks before the council meeting or 2 days before the council meeting. What the residents would have seen would have been exactly the same. It would have just been confidential, and that's all they would have seen. So from a transparency perspective, to me, it makes no difference.
Many of my residents, Mr Mayor, and I'll put this question to you, they actually complain when they see a late agenda item dumped on at the last minute. They don't actually get to talk about it at the forums. Do you think that's fair?
I think on this occasion, and as I said in the previous question, the content of such a report would have been confidential anyway. And as members of the public would have known that this was coming up for debate in December, they would have all had the opportunity to speak their thoughts on the matter at the public forum as an additional item.
Further follow-up question. As we know that Support Linfield have been very vociferous with, promoting this particular item. Because it's not necessarily on the agenda and won't be, and it will be a late agenda item, they've just got to hope that they, when they want to speak, they'll just have to guess that it's actually on there. Do you think that's fair to Support Linfield?
Councillor Pettit, as you know, at our public forums, there is a section at the end for other items of business. And quite often we have certain speakers who make use of that opportunity quite regularly. Now, I would anticipate that for any resident who was concerned about this and wanted to speak at the public forum, they would have perfectly had the opportunity to speak on this item at the public forum under other business. So it's completely fair, it's completely transparent, that opportunity is available, and I don't know why you're dragging this out to make a point that's not there. Councillor Spencer, you've got a question?
I'm sorry. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, a couple of questions, please, through you to the maybe General Manager, Acting General Manager. So it is a fact that we are $10 million, $9.8 million short. Is that correct?
Through you, Mr Mayor, that is correct.
Right. And we did not provision for this.
That is correct, Councillor.
So, second question is, without going into confidential, what if we can't get action plan 1 in time? Then would the report be incomplete in December?
Councillor, it would be an update report.
Sorry?
It would be a report with all the information we had at that point, but it may not be complete.
Okay. So my third question would be, is there any possibility that we could release this information to the public? That means take it off confidential so they know what we're dealing with.
Councillor, I don't believe so, because it would disclose the financials of the proponent.
Right. So my question again to you, my difficulty here is to be able to explain to the residents that we are seriously in a bind and we need to consider everything, but I can't tell them what it is. and they would probably feel that I'm trying to delay this project. So how do I get around that? That's the question. Is there any way we can release some of this information so that they know?
Councillor, I don't believe we can, no.
Thank you.
Councillor Ward, you had a line before.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, Mr. Mayor, I think it is to the Acting General Manager. Given the grave issue that we have before us, do you think it's within our risk appetite to now proceed in haste with item C here, now that we have a substantial sum of funds that potentially is going to be withdrawn from us?
Councillor, I don't believe that C, as put forward by the staff, was meant, well, I know it wasn't meant to be in haste because I had a hand in writing it. It was just that because it's actually an urgent matter to try to sort out, we wrote that to express the intention to deal with it as quickly as we could and give you an update in December. But that doesn't mean it would be resolved in December, just that we would be reporting back as quick as we could.
Is that within our risk appetite?
Yes, Councillor, reporting back in December is within our risk appetite.
Councillor Spencer.
Thank you. Another question through you to the Acting General Manager, please. So without going into confidential, as the Mayor said, we all read and interpret things differently. We have different thresholds of risks and taking and all those things. So am I right to say that this amendment, if we proceed with this amendment and then the answer is adverse, then we have nowhere to go? Whereas the original motion, if the answer is adverse, we still have another place to go, another option to proceed with the project. Yes, please, sorry.
Thank you, Councillor. Are you talking about the addition to point A? About that gives another option?
Action point 3.
Oh, action point 3. No, I basically see them as the same. Whether or not you specify which council meeting we report back to.
Oh, I'm sorry, not ABC. I'm talking about the confidential action point. Can I rephrase?
Yeah.
So, in this amendment, so if we go through this whole thing and the answer is adverse, then we have nowhere to go. Whereas in the original motion, which I proposed, if the answer this way is adverse, we still have an opportunity. We still have another opportunity to proceed with the project. Am I correct to assume that?
Councillor, I am of the view that the third option identified in the confidential attachment is always available to council, whether or not it is listed or otherwise. So if this amendment was adopted, point 3 can be done by council whenever it chooses.
Right. So can I just ask the mover of this one, I know we have debated and so on, if it's the same thing, why don't we just put the point 3 in here? Because that was the original thing we were talking about. Because, sorry?
Can I answer?
No, I'm asking.
The mover, was it?
Oh, yes,
The
yes, I'm
mover
sorry.
is Councillor Greg Taylor.
Yes, I can respect everybody's perspective when dealing with this really traumatising decision that's just happened. But I remain optimistic that the state government will realise that they've made...
Point of order, Mr Mayor. We're actually debating it. I think it was a yes or no, whether we wish to include it or not. We're now debating it again.
Am I allowed to...
I believe Councillor
complete my
Greg Taylor
response?
is just providing a response.
Yes, so I
It's a written response, so he's already got it prepared. It's not just an ad hoc yes or no. Seriously?
I wasn't looking at whether he's reading it from a sheet of paper or not, but he has the right to answer a question.
I've got a couple of
And
points here, but I hope you're covering the answer to this question.
well, to answer a question, you'd probably have 2 sentences, that sort of thing. So if you can keep it to that, then that would be great.
I was practically finished, so maybe you might summarise. I remain optimistic that the state government will realise that they've made an error in this situation and let us continue with this. I don't want to put anything else on the table that might mean that this amazing project that provides so much community facility is jeopardised at all. So I just remain optimistic, and that's why I'm sort of just going with what the original recommendation was. Thank you for your question.
Councillor Spencer, your light's on.
Yes, just a refresher. So this amendment is the original motion that was published before we received the letter today. It's a silly question. I just want it to be clarified so that the gallery can hear.
No, that's not the case.
Sorry?
That's not the case. This is the...
I'm asking
Wait,
staff.
there is a question to, I think the question is to the Acting General Manager.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This motion, the amendment, which was the staff recommendation, was developed after we'd been advised by Transport for New South Wales that they were withdrawing the funding.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Councillor Alec Taylor. I'm just going to ask a question as well to the Acting General Manager. Is there a letter stating the department's position, or is it just a meeting that we've had?
Mr Mayor, no, there is not a letter. There was a meeting with maybe 5 senior officers who told us about what they were proposing, or what the minister's decision was with regard to this, but they told us that we wouldn't have it in writing for a week or so.
Okay, now, are there any other speakers to this amendment? If not, let's put it to Councillor Smith.
Mr Mayor, I've got a question to Acting General Manager, through you. When you had this meeting with the 3 state, how many? 5 people from planning?
I think there was 5, yeah.
5 of them. It was an ad hoc meeting, wasn't it, that it was arranged?
Councillor, well, I'm not sure if it was ad hoc. So we were contacted yesterday, and a meeting was arranged.
Yeah.
And the meeting was held today.
Okay, I'll leave it. Thank you.
Councillor Greg Taylor.
Can I say closing remarks?
I don't think this is a closing remarks time, so,
Okay.
But if you have a question, then that's fine. Okay, so what we're voting on is whether or not to make this amendment become the motion. All those in favour of making this amendment the motion, please raise your hands. And that is Councillors Kay, Councillor Alec Taylor, Councillor Greg Taylor and Councillor Nye. Against is Councillors Spencer, Pettit, Lennon, Smith, Wheatley and Ward. I declare that that lost, and we go back to the original motion. So if we can put the original motion back up on the screen. Just seeking additional speakers, Councillor Pettit.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I actually haven't spoken on the motion at this point in time, I believe. Now, with Councillor Spencer, we had a robust discussion before the council meeting. with your particular motion, it gives us greater opportunities to revive this project. And it's a sensible one. And I commend Councillor Spencer for his insistence to push it. I think obviously we want to see this project to progress without it being a huge financial drain. Looking at all options, we don't want to go down the path of the Port Macquarie councils, and I'll just give you a little bit of information how it all went pear-shaped for them, as an example. So they went into a joint venture to build a shopping centre, like a hub. Now this particular project is going to cost council 7.3 million. Despite the centre not having been open, a bit like the hub, the costs had blown out to over $41 million with interest payments, and likely to extend the council's liability to 66 million. So with this particular project, we all knew that back many, many years ago, we never envisaged that it was going to cost such a huge amount of money. So that in 2007, a full public inquiry was announced by the Minister of Local Government, and the inquiry reported its findings in February 2008. The council had failed to provide appropriate financial and project management. Councillor Spencer's motion actually increases our financial and project management rather than diminishing it. And at that particular point in time, the council had lost control of the costs, and that the project costs had harmed the council's ability to provide services and amenities to the community. This motion gives us a different avenue, potentially not sucking this council dry for one particular project. We want a project that will benefit everybody. If we need to use assets, then it should be for the benefit of every ward, not just Roseville ward. And we hear the murmurs and groans from the gallery, unfortunately. But it's true. It is a huge amount of money being invested in one ward. Hopefully at some future date, we can invest funds to build the Turramurra hub, and in the possibly not necessarily foreseeable future, but the Gordon hub. So wouldn't that be nice to actually have all three locations underway and being built, rather than throwing all our eggs into one basket with a whopping big hole in it? Now that my wonderful friends in Macquarie Street have pulled $9.8 million from the project. So councillors, I commend this motion. It makes good sense to look at other opportunities to keep the project alive. And hopefully the gallery can appreciate we want the project to remain alive, but not to the detriment of the entire council area. Councillor Spencer's motion does that. It gives us the opportunity, and it gives staff the opportunity to report back. Highly unlikely in December, as was in the amendment, but in this particular motion it comes back at an ordinary council meeting. So council staff are not rushed. We've got literally 3 weeks until the December meeting. Realistically, would we get an answer from our preferred proponent within that time frame? Highly unlikely. We know we're going to get our wonderful thanks for coming letter from the state government about our $9.8 million a week or so's time, which will crystallise that they want their money back. Potentially you could say they were Indian givers, don't know, but it's happened to us, and I'm sure it will happen to others. So I commend Councillor Spencer's motion. It is common sense to look at all opportunities, and potentially another door might open by investigating this. Thank you.
Councillor Greg Taylor.
I'd like a procedural motion to do this in seriatim.
Oh, in seriatim. In seriatim, okay.
Does it
So
work? Is it possible?
it would be a bit odd, but I mean, you can always ask for it. But would other councillors support doing this in seriatim? Is there a seconder for putting this in seriatim? No. Do you have any other questions or comments, Councillor Greg Taylor?
No.
Okay, Councillor Alec Taylor.
Yes, I have a question regarding the confidential action items. So the primary difference between this motion and the amendment that we put forward earlier is actually a third action item in the confidential attachment. And I believe Councillor Spencer was asking about confidentiality and how much we can disclose. Is there any reason why we can't disclose that single action item, the third action item? Are we able to actually disclose that tonight? Because that's really what we're debating here. We're debating whether or not we actually perform that third action. And I feel like I'm not sure if that third action needs to remain confidential.
Sorry, it will be out of context if you just take one sentence and not give the whole thing. So when I asked that question earlier, I was suggesting the whole thing. So what Councillor Taylor is suggesting is just to take the third one and keep the others quiet. So if you want to show the whole thing. Yeah, nothing to hide.
So are we debating or are we asking questions?
I'm asking.
Yeah.
I guess it's a question from Councillor Alec Taylor to the Acting General Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I believe it should remain confidential
Fair enough.
because it could impact upon the information that is provided to the proponent.
Okay. And thank you very much. And I actually was going to ask Councillor Spencer for your permission to do that as well. But I appreciate the answer.
Are there any other questions? I'm going to speak in support of this motion. Now, obviously, I would have preferred the alternate, but that was shot down. But now that we've got this, I believe this is the most appropriate step forward. I do want to clarify on some misunderstandings, though. I do hear this case about Port Macquarie Council and all that's happened there. But if you look at the original GB4 and all the attachments, or 12 attachments, of which are all confidential, one of them is attachment A6, confidential attachment A6, analysis of key project risks, project development phase, etc. A lot of these concerns that we've observed in other parts of the government sector and indeed in the corporate sector overall have been concerns that have been flagged and raised as risks in this confidential attachment A6. It's a very impressive risk register covering nearly every scenario that we can think of. For each scenario, there have been a number of potential mitigants or potential courses of action should something occur. We have also structured the deal in such a way so as to minimise the financial impact on council. And I can't say too much more than that due to confidentiality, but I just don't see the parallels between what's happening here with the Linfield Village Hub and what's being proposed in these 12 confidential attachments and the comparison to Port Macquarie Council. I do believe that staff have put a lot of effort into making sure that this is as robust as possible. I thank the staff for doing all of this. As I said, this is not the path that I originally wanted to go down 5 years ago. But having said that, now that we are down the path, let's do it as robustly and as reasonably as possible. And I do believe that the 12 attachments here have been quite robust. In terms of delays, well, I could speak about delays. a year ago, councillors were presented with a similar report in November, and even though we had briefings, even though we had the option to attend briefings, even though we had all the information before us, we decided that we didn't have time to consider the matter, and we deferred it to December. And by deferring it to December and by deferring it further, we lost 3 months in the entire process. So, like, look, there have been delays. It hasn't been started by me, but to be fair as well, I think it's much better that the state government told us this before we signed the thing. Because had we signed this thing a month ago or 3 months ago, and then the state government pulled the funding from us, that would have been a little bit more awkward. And that situation would have been handled by our risk register here. I believe that what is being proposed here is a reasonable course of action. I don't believe that everything has been said so far reflects what's going on, but it's just unfortunate that we can't compare members of the public can't compare what's stated confidentially versus what various councillors are claiming. So you just have to make your own informed decision as to what is really going on, and it is difficult. So I'll stop there, and I note that Councillor Pettit may have a question.
Absolutely, Mr. Mayor, and you've mentioned it a couple of times, that this 5 years ago you had this certain path that you wanted to go down. We have 5 councillors on board that weren't here 5 years ago, so can you actually expand on that for their education?
So 5 years ago, there was an unsolicited proposal from a certain developer to develop the project. I remember at the time, there were some councillors who were in favour of it, some councillors against it, and there was also legal advice which various councillors considered before making the decision to proceed with the path that we currently are taking. So the path that we are currently taking was based on legal advice, which I thought was and what I think about legal advice doesn't matter, but it is based on legal advice. It was a decision of council. We have proceeded with that decision 5 years ago, and hopefully we can draw that to a close as soon as possible.
This is a question to those councillors that weren't there 5 years ago. Did that help explain anything, what this unsolicited proposal was from and what it was all about? Councillor Ward, does that sort of clarify anything for you? I'll take that as a no. Councillor Greg-Taylor, does that help clarify things, what happened 5 years ago?
Actually, I don't see how this question helps anything be clarified.
Councillor Greg-Taylor, you didn't feel the information helped you at all?
I'm not sure the answer is relevant.
So there are some
Taylor,
questions as
yes
to
or
the
no
relevance.
question. Either it was or it wasn't.
Point of order, are we now into badgering? Are we entering that?
It does appear slightly off topic. Councillor Pettit, if you can pick more targeted questions.
Absolutely,
that
no,
seem
that's
on topic,
why I asked
sure.
you, because you were the one that mentioned the 5-year unsolicited proposal, and I think it was actually Acting General Manager. Did we actually know who that unsolicited proposal was? I think it was put on the public record, is that correct?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I actually do not recall. I can take it on notice, or unless there's anyone else here who recalls.
I can.
I think it was quite public, so Councillor Spencer.
I was the one who pushed for that 5 years ago, unless I'm wrong. Am I wrong or am I right? I pushed for PPP, and it was knocked down. And in fact, it was quite public because the rostrum was there, and Fed Court came and spoke about the unsolicited proposal there, and we lost, and we couldn't because there was a legal advice saying that we can't do PPP. And that was the end of it.
Mr. Mayor, have we had 2 for and against on this motion?
Just want to confirm with the staff.
Mr Mayor, my records unfortunately show 3 people for and nobody against.
So we could potentially have more questions or more. Otherwise, if there's no more on this, and I note that there's 5 NMs, can we put this to a vote? So to sum up, I'll ask Councillor Spencer.
No, really, if we just put it to a vote.
All right, let's put this to a vote. All those in favour of this motion, please raise your hands. That is unanimous. All right, so, and the minutes will be available in the coming days. Next up is NM1, request by Ku-ring-gai's Jewish community. I seek a motion on NM1. Councillor Kay.
I move the motion, NM1, thank you.
And a seconder, Councillor Smith. So you're seconding, right? Yep. Okay, so Councillor Kay.
Okay. As a ward councillor for St Ives, I have been approached to address a request that has been brought to our attention by Shabad North Shore. They have approached us, council, with a heartfelt proposal, one that embodies the spirit of inclusivity and the celebration of diversity in our community. The essence of their request revolves around the Jewish holiday of Hanukkah, a festival that carries a powerful message. A little light dispels much darkness. This message resonates deeply with the values of light, goodness, and tolerance, qualities that we hold dear in our multicultural society. Shabbat North Shore seeks to expand their celebrations of Hanukkah this year, not only to uplift the Jewish community, but also to spread the profound message of light and unity to all Australians. They have requested that the Hanukkah menorah, measuring approximately 3 metres tall and 1 metre in width, be displayed in front of our council chambers during the holiday period, which falls between the 7th and 15th of December. This in previous years has been at the Gordon Library, but due to scaffolding and construction works, it was not an option this year. Now, some might wonder about the placement of this menorah, considering the central position our council's Christmas tree traditionally occupies. It is indeed a valid concern. However, in the spirit of unity and understanding, we will be placing the menorah to the right-hand side of the building. This way, we can honour the significance of both celebrations without diminishing either. It is important to note also that Shabbat North Shore had requested display a menorah at a roundabout connecting Link Road and Stanley Street in St Ives. However, after careful deliberation and discussions with staff, this location has been deemed unsuitable due to safety and traffic concerns. In a world fraught with conflict and division and the terrible events unfolding in the Middle East, recognising and acknowledging this Jewish holiday of Hanukkah is not only a gesture of goodwill, but also a commitment to celebrate the rich tapestry of cultures and faiths that make up Ku-ring-gai. As noted in my printed motion, that a request such as this should equally be applied to other faiths and cultural groups in Ku-ring-gai, and I encourage these groups to put forward their ideas to celebrate other festivals. I therefore encourage councillors to support this motion. Thank you.
Councillor Smith as seconder.
I'll reserve my right, thank you.
Councillor Alec Taylor.
Thank you. So I'd just like to briefly speak in favour of this motion. I think inclusivity is a core element of our community strategic plan. It's mentioned in our vision and in several of the action items. I think we should encourage any significant community group, well beyond the group that we're discussing tonight, to approach council to display installed symbols during special events or holiday periods. I think this is a good norm, and I think I would like to support inclusivity in Ku-ring-gai.
Are there any other speakers to this? If not, I'll ask Councillor Kay to sum up.
I think I've pretty much explained it, so there's no further need. Thank you.
So let's put this vote to a vote. All those in favour? That is unanimous. Next up, we have NM2, 9 Jumeric Street, Gordon, Jumeric Reserve. So, Councillor Lennon, you're moving?
Yes, if I may, Mr Mayor.
Okay, and then seconded by Councillor Ward. Councillor Lennon.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This is land that we own and have owned for some time, as per the business papers. In fact, we've owned it since 2007. For the last few months, following the house that was once upon a time there becoming unfit for habitation, it was demolished. So it is now a vacant lot in the American parlance. It's a simple bit of space that we own. Over the course of the 16 years since we acquired it, it has gone through various plans. There have been various motions and various ideas as to what to do with it. Here and now, there is nothing adopted. There is no clear council resolution as to the future use of this site. So it sits there empty, fenced, and yet as a piece of land we want to maintain and repair, we're going to surely be mowing it and looking after it. All this motion seeks to do is say, well, let's open it up for the public. Let's say we own the land, this is your land, this is community land, we're going to continue maintaining it, we're just going to remove the fence so people can walk in. We're not looking to spend a lot of money, we're not looking to make any commitments to the future, we're basically looking to repair and maintain this piece of land in a way that people can use it. And I envisage over time there'll be a few ideas in the papers in terms of a few steps, just doing a little bit more for very little cost, by which our residents, particularly the residents of Gordon, but really anybody, in fact anybody coming to the council chambers, can utilise and enjoy their land. So I commend this motion to you as a very low cost, very easy way to open up land that we already own, and instead of boxing it away in a corner where nobody can access it, they can look at it, you can walk past and see it and think, gee, that's a really nice land to walk on, but people can't walk on it. So let's say to the people, this is yours, we're going to open the gate, we're going to remove the fence, let you in, and we're going to maintain it so that people can utilise it as the most simple, the most basic, the most easy recreational space we might ever get a chance to put together. So I commend this motion to you. Thank you.
Councillor Ward.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Mr Mayor, that parcel of land was initially bought for parkland, and it has just been sitting there for quite a number of years. And I think it was early this year or late last year the fence was put around it. We seem to be very good at putting fence around things and locking people out. It's time that we stopped doing that. It's time that we started to let our community enjoy some of those open spaces. There are also quite a number of units along that street now, and opening that up would enable children to play and families together and have their barbecues or whatever. So I commend and I ask that the council consider opening them up. Thank you.
I do have a question to the Director of Operations. When was the fence put up and when was the property there demolished? Just for clarification.
Through you, Mr Mayor, the property was demolished and the fence was installed immediately after the property was vacant, which was early this year. I can't recall the exact month though.
Okay, thank you. And now I'd like to speak briefly in support of this motion. I used to be a resident of Gordon Ward, living on the western side of Pacific Highway. And like many residents on the western side, I know that it is difficult to access good, convenient public space for recreation. Fortunately for me, I had Regimental Park, but I know especially for the suburb of Gordon, if you were to speak about convenient access to recreation space, there is another recreation space at the bottom of Jumeric Street, but it is down quite a steep hill. It is good that we've potentially got an option for residents at the top of the hill to access. And as we know, in the future, the population of Gordon itself may be increasing. We have a construction site right next to us as we speak. So I really look forward to potentially opening number 9 Jumeric Street for the public, for all residents to enjoy. in the near future. So I speak in support of this and I encourage all other councillors to do so. Councillor Petter.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and it's Director Watson who hasn't been very silent this evening, and he enjoys that, no doubt. So in regards to 9 Merrick Street, you might want to give a rough time frame and the various processes to actually convert said location into a park, if you could illuminate the councillors on the process and timeframes.
Through you, Mr Mayor, and I'm happy for Director Nassif to supplement my answer because some of these processes would be his to control and implement. The site is zoned, I think it's enterprise these days, what used to be the old business zones. So that requires a development application to be documented, considered and approved. That will take a number of months. That will involve doing some design work, some costing, which is all alluded to in Council Lennon's notice of motion. The notice of motion doesn't envisage a particularly expensive conversion, so that would lead to not a particularly long construction period. I would envisage that the minor things that I talked about without getting them right. So you would envisage that 9, 10 months thereabouts to get a DA, some pricing and some construction going. It's relatively simple.
Thank you, Director. And just a further follow-up in regards to the whole process, would there be public consultation on the design that council officers come up with?
Through you, Mr Mayor, that'd be a matter for council. The intent, the scope is fairly limited and fairly specific here, but there would certainly be statutory consultation as part of a development application, consideration of a DA. Council would ordinarily at least notify work, but if you wanted to build in a separate consultation process on a fairly minimal scope, you'd have to, I mean, it's quite open to council to do that. It's a question of whether you thought a couple of extra months and another council report added on to the process was going to yield anything other than what Councillor Lennon's already alluded to here. But it's open to council to take that path of extra consultation if it requires.
Thank you, Director. And I think it's important that we do consult as much as possible. And would the notification of this particular DA be just a normal statutory notification around there, or would we actually go further? Because hopefully we'll get more people visiting this site.
Through you, Mr Mayor, the notification is requirements as prescribed in Council's community participation plan. It's not the role of the notification process in our CPP to encourage or discourage people to use something that's subject of a DA. That could be a separate process, but the DA will be notified in accordance with the notification catchment in that notification community participation plan.
Feel free to supplement if you like.
Through you, Mr Mayor, if council did choose to do broader consultation as part of the design process, that would be further than the statutory notification, and it would include a number of other media, including council's website, e-news, a slightly wider distribution. So certainly the things you're alluding to could be picked up in a broader community notification of consultation process.
Are there any other speakers on this motion? If not, I'll ask Councillor Lennon to sum up.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. There's probably not much to add. This is a minimalist proposal, simply about opening up a bit of land for as little cost as could be imagined for the benefit of the residents. As Councillor Pettit said, if there was a certain involved design process down the path, we as a council could look at that. But at the moment, we're simply looking at the very minimal process based upon largely the repairs and maintenance we were doing anyway. Perhaps a few more ideas, but whether it's a bit more involved or not is probably a question for a bit further down the track. At the moment, let's just if we can, open up the fence, open up the land so that our residents, both of Gordon and people coming in and working in Gordon, people, perhaps council staff over lunchtime, have got a bit more grass so that they can wander around, sit down, have a picnic. So this is opening up, giving the community the land to use that they already own. Thank you.
Okay, let's put this NM2 to vote. All those in favour? It is unanimous. Next up is NM3, Ku-ring-gai tree protection. Councillor Wheatley.
I'm just going to speak briefly on this.
Yeah. Do we have a seconder?
It's a race.
Technically, I saw Councillor-elect Taylor put his hand up first on this occasion. So, Councillor, you can all speak to it if you want. Councillor Wheatley, go.
As I said, I'm just going to speak briefly to it. There's a tree population of hundreds of thousands of trees that could be significantly more if you take into account our national parks. In recent years, there's been a notable surge in unlawful tree-related activities within our LGA. This includes the removal, severe limb pruning, and an even bigger issue that we have at the moment, which is the poisoning of large established trees. In regards to the statistics, the number of alleged unauthorised tree works that has been received to date this year has been 652, which is up more than 50%. The hotline, in regards to point A, is a dedicated direct line to a specific officer to immediately investigate the allegations, which will address the lag between the receipt of the allegation and the staff attending the site. It's very important that the unauthorised works are stopped immediately, which could save many trees from destruction. In regards to the forum, there's an opportunity to brainstorm with the community on how further protecting our trees and sending a message that illegal tree works within Ku-ring-gai Council will not be tolerated. I'm hoping everyone here supports this nom. Thank you.
Councillor Taylor.
Thank you. So like most councillors here, I frequently receive calls from concerned residents regarding the sound of chainsaws in the neighbourhood. It often happens out of hours. And while we have pretty good out of hours processes, a dedicated hotline will accelerate our response times and help to protect our precious tree canopy. So I'm very strongly in favour of this nom, and I do hope that everybody supports it tonight. Congratulations to Councillor Wheatley.
Councillor Pettit.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillor Wheatley, you do have 5 minutes. Don't be afraid to use it occasionally. Anyway.
I think I said enough. Thank you.
Councillor Wheatley, you're never too shy to hear your words of wisdom. Anyway, well done for this particular nom. Obviously, councillors, it is a widespread cancer in this community. People believe that hacking trees, poisoning trees is acceptable. No, it's not. One of the good things, in a specific example recently here in West Pymble, where the residents were quite concerned and it just went ballistic on Facebook. We had rangers there and the hotline. We didn't have the hotline. Who do we contact? We contact council. That's great, but some people don't know which part of council to contact. After hours number, but if they have a dedicated hotline, that's getting straight to this person that we need to talk to. And given the amount of infringement notices that we issue, this will be a self-funding hotline and will probably make us a lot of money. Unfortunately, it will make us a lot of money because people love to do the wrong thing. Despite council's efforts in education processes, we've done the bus stops, we've got those nice signboards, you know, this is my habitat, don't cut it down. People still do. Sometimes they see trees as nuisances. And that's sad because they moved to this area because they like the area. You would think they would like the trees in their backyard. Now, we're very hard on individuals about doing the wrong thing. And I think as a council, we also have to set an example. Councillors, because we tell residents don't chop down trees illegally. We don't want you to reduce our tree canopy. That's important. But then we go to the Linfield Village Hub. What are we doing there? We're mowing down over 100 trees. So sometimes it's do as I say, not as I do. So remember that, councillors. The council actually has to lead by example. For our projects, we don't want to be mowing down over 100 trees. It's not a good look when we're trying to protect trees. It does smack of hypocrisy to me, and also to the residents. Doesn't quite make sense. So with this particular hotline, maybe if work started on the Linfield Village Hub, people would be ringing and saying, why is all these trees being cut down? Oh, because council said it was a good idea. We're going to replant some of them again and then educate people about the trees that we've just cut down by replacing them with new ones. We reckon that's going to confuse the residents? Big time it will. Anyway, Councillor Wheatley, well done with this. Councillor Taylor, everybody wanted to jump up and second this. Your hand must be very quick. Very, very quick. And it's good to see councillors wanting to second such an outstanding nom. We've tried various noms. This is one out of the box. And I'll commend councillors who've done previous noms in regards to trees. This is again going one step further. Nothing else that some of the other councillors done. And I'll just pause there through you, Mr. Mayor, to the relevant director. Has any other council got a dedicated hotline like this?
Mr. Mayor, not that I'm aware of. This will be the first.
Thank you, Director Banasif. So we will be the gold star. Banasif, another hi to Ku-ring-gai, I know. You can maybe take that across to Parramatta. Show what a smaller council can do in comparison to these big ones that have got, you know, hundreds and hundreds of high rises and they mow down trees willy-nilly. Because drive along Great Western Highway from Parramatta, Pendle Hill, Wentworthville, and you will see high rises as far as the eye can see. There probably was trees there at some stage, but George, we're going to build some stuff out there. We'll be looking after our trees. So, Councillor Wheatley, well done with this one.
Councillor Spencer.
Oh, thank you. So I am in support of this motion, and I thank Councillor Whitley for putting this up. I have received numerous calls about such offences that has been occurring before. However, there was one that I was actively involved with, was at Kunambara Road, where they were frantically trying to stop this person from cutting down the trees illegally, might I add, on a Saturday morning. And they could get hold of council. There was an after-hours hotline, but then there is no specific hotline for trees. So they didn't know what to do, and there was no one around. By the time we got someone into action, it was already Monday. And by then, the trees were all gone. And we did explore opportunities such as increasing the penalties for those offences. And we have to rely on state government to give us the power to do so. So in the meantime, I think this is really good, and what my friend has suggested, may pay for itself because more people will complain about trees. And I don't know, they might even complain against councillors who pass motions, notice of motions to cut down trees. I don't know about that. But one thing I might say is that to Councillor Pettit is that not every part of Sydney has trees in the past. If you look at the old photos from 100 years ago, 40 years ago, 1940 and so on, a lot of areas in Sydney had no trees. No trees whatsoever. It's just dirt road, buildings. And there are trees today. Don't believe me? Go look it up. Thank you.
Councillor Smith.
Mr Mayor, must say Councillor Wheatley kept this one very quiet. I didn't know anything about it. She told me that she was very excited, that she was putting a nom together that everybody would love. I asked her if she cared to share. She didn't share. I I'd like to say thank you very much to Councillor Wheatley for bringing this forward to the council. I think it is a fantastic notice of motion that she's brought forward, and I can't see anybody voting against it in this council, probably nor in any other one. I appreciate on the fact that I too, as a councillor on a Saturday, received a call from a member of the public, very concerned with a tree that was being taken down. I did call the ranger. At the same time, I had this particular resident phoning me. I decided to go past. I did actually myself decide to pull over and just ask the question to this chap that had a chainsaw with a couple of other people that were out of area, and asked whether I could see the permit, and he told me to show me his boot, if I continue to ask the questions. I was quite happy to see, I made a couple of calls to the directors. We did manage to get a ranger on site, and there was a fair bit of investigation done and a stop to the works. So I think this will be great for my Saturdays, that we've got somebody. We might even, I think, over the course of time with the figures and everything that we've seen, and what Director Banassif explained, that we've got the potential here where, you've got one ranger who could potentially be fining people up to $300,000 a year. Not that I'm interested in fining residents, but if that's what we have to do to stop illegal tree cutting, then that's what we've got to do. So for those reasons, I hope that this gets everybody's support this evening. Thank you.
Councillor Lennon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is feeling like quite a cacophony, isn't it? I'm also thrilled to support it. One of the defining features of my term on council has followed from a message that Councillor Ward and I received from one of our residents in January of last year, I think within days, if not hours, of our email address coming online, concerning 6 trees illegally removed in a street in Killara. And we fronted that house, we've had a lot of work on that. And something I said at the time, earlier last year, was that it's not just enough to do everything we can within the system, but we need to think of new ideas, something that isn't already done, to really prosecute this extremely important issue. Our residents care deeply about the environment in which they've chosen to live. So I'm thrilled about this motion. I'm also excited about it. This is exactly what I implored us to do last year, and I would encourage us all to keep on doing. Think of something new, something that hasn't been already done, something that's out of left field perhaps, but something that is a really smart idea. And a lot of ideas feel very smart once you've seen them, but until you've actually come up with it, nobody really thought of it. And I commend Councillor Whitley for coming up with an idea that is evidently brilliant, and yet we didn't think of it beforehand. So thank you. I commend the motion.
I'm going to speak in support of this motion. I do believe it's a good initiative. I do note that one of the statistics is slightly off. It compares a November year to date with a full year, but that's a minor detail. Let's overlook it. On the whole, it is a good initiative. I do believe we need to support it. I do believe also that there's still a bit of a journey to go before we can properly educate all residents on what they can and can't do without trees. Because obviously, look, we've had a lot of alleged unauthorised tree works, 711 year to date, just this year alone. And what we'll end up finding after we've got staff looking at all 711 cases is that it's not 711 cases of illegal activity. Some of these may be legal activity, many of these may not be. Many of these, for example, might cover situations where there are exemptions. For example, if you've got a tree branch that is touching a power line, then exempt work is you're allowed to prune the tree branch so that there is a 50 centimetre gap between the tree branch and the power line. There is a wide list of exemptions in part 13.2 of our DCP. But on the whole, though, we do, each of us as councillors, receive complaints about illegal tree activity, and obviously it's most obviously illegal if it, say for example, happens on a Saturday morning public holiday when everyone is out and about somewhere else, and when the loggers' license plates have been removed. Like, sometimes there are dodgy situations like that. I would just commend Councillor Wheatley for putting together this motion. I do believe we have further education to undertake, but I mean, you have to start with something. You have to start with something and learn on the way, and I do believe that this is the next step forward. So encourage you all to vote. Are there any other speakers on this? If not, I'll ask Councillor Wheatley to sum up.
I'm just going to say how this came about was a number of residents in Buckra Street, Turramurra, and Burns Road in Wahroonga have experienced a significant amount of trees being removed along those streets, and I'm glad that everybody here is happy with what I've put up. I didn't realise it was the first, so that's good. But no, that's all I had to say, but thank you for all your support. I really appreciate it. And George, can you take it?
All right, so we will now put this matter to a vote. All those in favour? That is unanimous. Next up is NM4, re-establish the status of Women's Advisory Committee. Seeking a motion, Councillor Kay.
Yes, if I could move my notice of motion for establishing the status of the Women's Advisory Committee.
As seconded by Councillor Alec Taylor. So, go for it. You may now speak on the matter.
Okay, I'll be brief because we've been here a couple of times before. Okay, where am I? In the last term of council at the ordinary meeting on the 16th of July 2021, which is approximately 2.5 years ago, council resolved to investigate establishing a status of Women's Advisory Committee. B, staff research the operation of similar committees at other councils and provide a report on the role, operation and resourcing requirements if implemented at Ku-ring-gai. The report includes a draft constitutions for the committee to resolve. Now, this was carried unanimously. Then, unfortunately, at the June 28th ordinary meeting, the following recommendation was put to council an amendment, which would have provided council with male representation of 35% to the committee. The motion had eliminated 5 women's voices from the group community, as it was alleged it was too big, thereby reducing the female representation from 15 females to be replaced by 7 male councillors' votes. So in actual fact, increasing the size of the committee from 17 to 20. This committee was created to give women a voice and empower them. This change with additional committee members who are men does the exact opposite and steers away from the purpose of the committee and its creation. At the ordinary meeting on council held on the 16th of August 2022, council resolved that 2 women's forums would be held in the 2022-23 financial year. This resolution also dissolved the status of Women's Advisory Committee. We have had both of those particular committees, forums, sorry. Several women have shared publicly and privately their disappointment that the committee had been dissolved. Clearly, there was an interest from the community as 25 applications were received from women of all walks of life. The purpose of establishing the status of Women's Advisory Committee is to elevate specific women's issues by giving women a voice and the opportunity to contribute to planning and improving services, facilities, programs and projects, while highlighting issues of the importance to women to improve the status of women in our community. Members of the committee will provide advice, advocate and raise awareness of issues that affect women in Ku-ring-gai, promoting local networks, activities and events that celebrate women in our community. The committee will provide a platform for addressing local issues and make women feel valued, engaged and empowered to develop effective and targeted solutions. Some of the areas that we had addressed at the couple of forums were violence against women, women's representation, cultural inclusion and removing barriers. These are what women wanted to be addressed from a local level. The status of the Women Advisory Committee will provide a structured and organised way for the community to come together and address specific needs and concerns while promoting civic engagement and collaboration and building stronger relationships in the community. Moving forward, we are now able to act on the areas that matter to women by re-establishing a Women's Committee who can strongly advocate for women and amplify the voices of the community. We've sort of left a bit in limbo with this particular committee. We've done the 2 forums, so I think it's time to re-establish. I therefore encourage councillors to vote in favour of re-establishing the status of Women's Committee. Thank you.
Before I get Councillor Alec Taylor to a seconder to speak, I just wanted to clarify point C. That the mayor or a councillor nominated by council be appointed as chair of the committee. Are we at this point proceeding with that, or are we just saying that we'll deal with that later, Councillor Kay? We can proceed with that. So if we're proceeding with that, are we nominating someone in particular as chair?
Yes.
Okay, and who is that?
I'll nominate Councillor Kay.
Okay, so nominating Councillor Kay. Is that what you're proposing to have as point C, that Councillor Kay be appointed as chair of the Status of Women's? And
Sorry, that is if the mayor is not chairing.
Oh yeah, that I'm not going to chair this
sure?
committee. I'm sure.
Mr. Mayor, can I just clarify? I suppose I made an assumption, but I assumed that we would be voting on this motion and then would have some form of electing the chair if it was passed. We have done that in the past for other committees.
We have. Look, that'll entirely be up to Councillor Kay. So whether Councillor Kay wants to move this thing with her name in that place, or whether we want to vote to support points A to G and then have a separate vote on who should be the chair. Councillor Kay, as mover, what do you want to do?
I'm happy to leave it as is. If Councillor
points A to
Taylor is
G.
happy with that,
I'm happy either way.
wanted a quicker process.
I'm happy either way. This is your motion.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So just points A to G as is, and then we'll have a separate thing on who shall be the chair.
Well, we might as well move the motion as is and then do a separate. We don't need to change the wording.
We'll
in that
move it
way.
as
That's
is
the
and
way
do
you
a
want to
separate
do it.
thing.
Sorry, I've got an amendment.
Okay.
We're not quite there yet.
Wait, so Councillor Alex Taylor then, assuming that we're going with points A to G, as seconder, would you like to speak to the motion now before the
Yes,
amendment?
please. Look, and really all I wanted to say is I think we should do all we can for gender equality. I think the public forums have been a great start. We now have an opportunity to take this to the next level. Let's have a committee as well. Let's do more. I'm an ally and would like us to do everything we can for gender equality in Ku-ring-gai.
Councillor Wheatley.
Chris? I'd like to move an amendment, which I think Chris is going to bring up now.
Would you like to read that out for the public?
Sure. Following the success of 2 previous women's forums in council, and then I've got A, notes that the Women's Committee is exclusive and depends on friendships, associates and promises, and I think that B, that notes that women's forums are inclusive and all are welcome. So then I've got point B, that council resolves to conduct 2 further women's forums in 2024, and I'm happy to speak to that.
All right, is there a seconder? Councillor Ward. Okay, so Councillor Wheatley, you may speak.
Okay. The 2 women's forums provided an opportunity for the community to come together to discuss specific matters relating to women, with the aim to increase the participation and inclusion of women in the Ku-ring-gai community. Both forums provided opportunities for women to share their experiences, as well as highlight the priority areas relevant to improve gender inequality and justice. 76 people attended the first Women's Forum that was held at Roseville Golf Club with Tracy Spicer as the keynote speaker. Discussions around the importance of women having a voice and a role in female participation throughout their history. In my opinion, the forum was successful, and I don't believe that there's any need for change.
Councillor Ward as seconder.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As Councillor Wheatley said, it was both successful forums, and I commend the staff, the work that they did. We also have had students from various schools there as well, which was quite encouraging to see the inclusive nature of these forums. So once again, thank you. Women's Forum is independent and a think tank that strives to create a pro-woman culture change by informing and empowering women to make a difference through support, communications from different communities, and through the Women's Forum, the Council promoted a society that respects and promotes the dignity of all women. It also involved and included broader community women network. We had people from everywhere who came. It affirmed the values that is inherent dignity of every human life and recognizes that women have a unique role in nurturing and sustaining life. It also had programs that were evidence-based. Through the first one, we were able to collect data and we were able to deliver the next lot of what the women of Ku-ring-gai wanted. It was practical and it was one that people could collaborate, people could connect and make friends, and there were also social connections. So therefore, we had a larger group of people who were part of the forum that not only came and listened, learned, but also forged a much better and greater relationships. Therefore, I commend the Women's Forum continues in its current state. Thank you.
Sorry, a procedural question, if I may.
Yeah, sure.
Question to Councillor Wheatley. Is there a word missing in A? Committee is exclusive and dependent on friendships? Or exclusively dependent on?
It's exclusive and...
Okay. All right, okay, thank you. Sorry.
All right. Next on is Councillor Alec Taylor.
Thank you. So it's great that we've had such success with the Women's Forums, and it's also fantastic that we have this environment where anyone can come and attend and be involved. It's inclusive and it sounds like a success story. I did attend the first one. It was a really interesting event. I attended as an ally, but I think we should do more. I think we can do both. I feel like a committee is different. It doesn't seem exclusive to me. It feels like a completely different thing where community representatives are trying to further what we do for gender equality and for women in Ku-ring-gai. It feels like a bit of a different thing. I don't think it's one or the other. I'd love to do both if we can. I'm not sure if you would like this idea, but I'm wondering if we could even sort of succeed this particular amendment by including point B as an additional point in the original motion. Would we be able to merge the two together? No. Okay, fair enough. So look, I'm definitely not averse to women's forums. I think they're a good idea. I'd like to do both. So on balance, I'm against this motion, but only because I'd like a committee as well.
Councillor Kay.
Okay, I don't think I could say it better than Councillor Alec Taylor. I agree the forums were very successful. They were fantastic. They were well attended. My original status of Women's Advisory Committee always had the forums attached. This is an additional. It's come from the forum, and the forums, they're lovely, they're warm and fuzzy, they're very inclusive, a lot comes out of them, but we need to hone in on these local issues, and I feel that that can only be done by an actual committee. I encourage now, councillors to let's just get on with this and get this committee re-established.
Are there any other speakers on this? If not, we will vote on whether this amendment will become the motion. Those in support of the amendment becoming the motion, please raise your hands. And that is Councillors Pettet, Lennon, Smith, Wheatley and Ward. Those against are Councillors Kay, Spencer, Councillor Alec Taylor, Councillor Greg Taylor and Councillor Nye. Given that it is 5 for and 5 against, I would exercise my casting vote as Mayor to go against this amendment becoming the motion. We are now back to the original motion, which is what Councillor Kay had put up in points A to G. Councillor Alec Taylor, I believe you've spoken already, but you have a question?
I have an amendment, actually.
Oh, you have an amendment, okay.
Yeah, I would like to move the original motion and add Part B from the amendment as Part H.
Okay, so I'll wait for the staff to prepare what that looks like. And a seconder for this amendment would be Councillor Greg Taylor. So Councillor Alec Taylor.
I've spoken enough to this subject.
Okay. Councillor Greg Taylor as seconder.
I feel very similarly to Alec, obviously, and that I think it would be great if we could get both going.
Okay, sure. Councillor Kay.
Yeah, as it was stipulated, there was always going to be forums, but I'm wondering if Councillor Alec Taylor would take away the word "to." I don't think I'd like to limit myself to just 2. I think we should leave ourselves open-ended on a need basis.
At least 2?
Yeah, I'm happy with at least 2, but not only 2.
So point H, we're saying Council resolved to conduct at least 2 further women's forums in 2024. Right, so Councillor Taylor's said his thing, Greg, Councillor Kay. Are there any other speakers to this motion? So what we're voting on now is whether or not this amendment becomes the motion. All those in favour? Councillor Wheatley.
I've got a question.
Yeah, go for it.
In regards to point E, that the applicants recommended by the selection panel at the 28th of June 2022, council may be invited to serve on the committee and duly appointed. Can I just clarify something there?
Nope.
So if you go back to the terms of reference, right? I've just got to get the page, so just give me a second. If you look at the terms of reference, it says the community members are appointed by the resolution of the council following expressions of interest. Vacancies must be advertised online throughout the relevant local community pages. What I'm trying to understand is that the applicants recommended by the selection panel, is this the previous applicants that we're talking about or new applicants?
Councillor, Director of Community.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. The intent was to go back to the original people and ask if they would like to participate. If they were no longer interested, we would follow the vacancy process and go through that process again.
Okay, so then I want to ask another question, which is, there are new people who've moved into this area, and the reason why I'm bringing this up as well is that I know of 2 people who are older community members that felt that they couldn't apply for the positions because they were too old. So what I'm trying to find out here is that why can't we go through an EOI process again, go back to the applicants that are there and see whether or not they're actually wanting to still participate, and if they are, that's great. If they're not, they're not. But I don't see why in the last 18 months there have been people who've moved out of this area and people who've moved into this area. There are people who didn't feel the need that they could put an EOI in because they thought they were too old and couldn't add any value, and I said that that is not true. And I don't think that we should be limiting ourselves to a selection panel that was 18 months ago.
So that was a long question.
I'd like to accept that change. So I believe that means that Part E would become...
Sorry, point of order. Can councillors stand up when you speak, please?
Oh, I beg your
Sorry.
pardon. Sorry. Yeah, but fair enough.
Do I have to say?
So I just wanted to say that staff return to the community in order to appoint committee members. I don't know, Janice, can you help with that?
Mr Mayor, perhaps that a expressions of interest process be conducted, a fresh or a new expressions of interest.
Fine.
Well, yeah.
So if that is what Councillor Taylor you want to move as the
yes,
amendment.
I'm trying to accept that change
Yeah.
into this amendment.
I just
Yeah,
want to
thank you,
confirm whether
Councillor
Councillor
Taylor.
Greg Taylor as a seconder is happy with this.
Just one quick question. So have the committee members that were accepted the first time been contacted to say that the committee has been disbanded? Have they already been sort of apologised to? Okay, so yeah.
So that being the case, and I know it was a long question before, so just to clarify, that a new EOI process is undertaken and that everyone then can apply and we go through the same process as we did last time and report back to council.
So rather than duly appointed and report back to council. So and duly appointed becomes and report back to council.
So Councillor Alec Taylor and Councillor Greg Taylor, do you think point F, which was just deleted just then, should be taken out? Yes, you're fine with that? Okay, cool.
Yes.
All right. So the following changes have been made as per the screen and supported by the movers of the amendment, Councillor Alec Taylor and Councillor Greg Taylor. Next up, we have Councillor Kay.
This question is through you, Mr Mayor, to Director of Community. Just with the expressions of interest, the whole reason was to go back to the existing people because the process is so slow. As you can appreciate, even in going from the first stage to the second stage took a year. I'm concerned that going back out and this won't even be established this year. And that was my original discussions with members of your team to, at the end of the day, we didn't want to delay this any further. Now, what time estimate would you put on this? Because as I said, we'd be lucky to get one meeting then towards the end of the year, and it defeats the purpose of this committee that's already waited this long.
Mr Mayor and councillors, I don't see a meeting by the end of this year. If we were to go out, even to put an expression of interest out tomorrow, we would have to give people some time to respond, and then we'd go through the process. It is quite a fair process of going through the people who nominate, and I won't know how many people would nominate, and then a report would have to come back to council in December, and as we've heard earlier tonight, we just won't have time. We just couldn't turn it around in that time. So we'd have to wait until February for a report to come back.
Thank you. I've got another question. Councillor Alec Taylor, would you consider taking that out now that you've heard that?
Look, I think that it's a compromise solution. My feeling is that there's some appetite to, and some reason to go back out to the community. A period of time has passed, people have moved in, and there's more awareness as well. I think the public forums have created awareness, so I'm actually not averse to doing it. What I think I'm hearing, if I'm right, is that staff will be able to come back to us in February with a recommendation, an independent recommendation for a new set of nominated members for us to endorse. And by the way, I think it's quite likely that they may include, hopefully they will include some, if not all, of the original people that wanted to return to the committee. So I feel like taking a little bit longer is not a bad idea at this point. So I'd rather not.
All right, would you consider putting report back to council by February so we
Definitely.
can make this specific, so we
It's a
can
good
at least
idea.
get one meeting done?
Report back to council in the February OMC. That's achievable.
Well, put it in there. I'll say, Mr Mayor and councillors, I'm just concerned that we are busy planning.
Christmas period.
Well, that as well, and is that the optimum time to be asking for people to join a committee? We would go back to the people who were part of the original one and ask them individually and let them know that it's been reformed. My concern is that we're busy planning for an International Women's Day forum in March, and that's going to take a lot of resourcing to get that done. But look, we can put it out there, see how we go. Report could come back to February to say we need more time, perhaps.
Thank you.
Councillor Spencer.
Thank you. Just a question on E, please. So to nominate members to serve on the committee, how do we ensure that we have gender equality on the members? Like, male, female and others?
Mr Mayor and councillors, we do have a terms of reference, which is in the report, and that's how the people who nominate, well, that's how it's advertised, and it's also how they're assessed when we get the nominations. So we assess it against the terms of reference.
Sorry, does it say male, female?
I think it says, Mr Mayor and councillors, I have to check that, but
There's a number of points, nearly all of which cover women, except for one point which says engaged community members.
Yeah.
So I guess if you read it by the wording, you could have said males there, but by the spirit of what's intended, as reflected by all the other bullet points, the intention is that it's comprised of women.
Yeah, so my question is whether councillors, the Taylors Squared, will consider including something.
I will answer that question as one of the Taylors Squared. I don't see the need to have men on this committee. I think it's entirely for women. I think there's probably no harm in having men there, and if staff thought it was a good idea, then go for it. But I don't see the need to change it at this point.
Councillor Taylor, men can be part of the solutions.
Right.
And in
Okay.
every other places, domestic violence, education, all of them, we are now
Sure.
including men. for
So we
solutions.
need allies.
Director Community, you wanted to add to?
Yeah.
Mr Mayor and councillors, I'm now remembering when the first round of applications came in, we actually did have a male person apply, and we assessed that application, but unfortunately what that person had to offer didn't really sit with the criteria, so that person wasn't nominated, wasn't
Sure,
recommended.
understand. But then we shouldn't exclude the other genders, right? I mean, there are male, females, and then there are identified pronouns and so on. I think there was an earlier GB item about gender equality. So it's very important that we have it here too.
Is that a question to someone?
Yes, it's a question.
Who's
Why
a question to?
To the Taylor's Squared.
Oh, to Taylor Squared. Okay, so
Why
Councillor
can't we
Alan
have it
Taylor
here?
or Councillor Greg Taylor, would you like to respond?
Rather did I read? I feel like it is appropriate for any gender to attend the forums, but I think sort of for the advisory committee, it is better if it's chaired and all of the members are female.
So next up is Councillor
I
Kay.
just wanted to make a comment on that, like all the other...
Question?
Oh, sorry.
Make it a question.
I'll make it a question, okay. I currently believe that we have observers on all the committees. Would that not be the same on this particular committee, male or female?
Mr Mayor and councillors, that is correct. Anybody can attend the meetings.
Councillor Spencer, your light is on.
Thank you.
Questions?
So, following on, my question is, following on Councillor Greg Taylor's answer, then we should clarify there so as not to embarrass male applicants to say just females.
So can I answer that? So as the mover of the amendment, I'm finally, I think, getting clarity that we are not excluding men from being on this committee. Men are welcome to apply and may be selected. I think the current terms of reference are appropriate and handle that issue appropriately. So I don't feel the need to change it at this point.
Sure, understand. But what about the seconder who says that this should be exclusively women on the members? So one is saying yes, the other one is saying no.
I'll retract that then and just go with what Alec has said there.
Right, okay. So just to clarify, members of any gender, is that right?
If we stick with what the original terms of reference state.
So it is not restricted, so males can apply as well if they meet the criteria and the skills and all those things. So do we have that understanding? Is that correct?
Mr Mayor and councillors, that is correct. We don't discriminate. Anybody can apply for the positions.
Mr
Councillor
Mayor,
Ward.
does that include LBGT?
Wait, what did you just say?
Does that include LBGT community?
As far as I can tell, it is possible within these terms of reference. I'd like to be clarified.
Mr Mayor and councillors, when we say members of the community, that immediately assumes LGBTQI plus any other people in the community. So anyone can apply.
Councillor Kay, your light is on.
Oh, I just wanted to make a comment on that where...
Questions?
Question. That would mean, Director Bevan, that all are welcome. Is that correct?
Mr Mayor and councillors, all members of the community are welcome. We will not discriminate.
All right, so after that robust debate, I don't see any lights on, so we are now voting on whether or not this amendment will become the motion. All those in favour of this, please raise your hand. And that is unanimous. So now that this has become the motion, does anyone like to speak or should we sum up? Otherwise, I'll get Councillor Kay as the original mover of a motion to sum up.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, basically, we've had the robust discussion. No, I'm happy with the changes. I really just want to get on with this. This is something my community wants, our community. Let's do this. And I appreciate, if there was support on this unanimously. Thank you.
So we will now put this to vote, and just to clarify, if this is successful, we will then have a separate nomination to see who will become the chair, noting that I do not want to be the chair. So all those in support of this motion, please raise your hands. That is unanimous. Now we have call for nominations for a potential chair. We've got Councillor Greg Taylor.
I'd like to nominate Councillor Kay.
Councillor Kay, do you accept the nomination?
Yes, I do.
Councillor Pettet.
Yes, I'd like to nominate Councillor Ward.
So, Councillor Ward, do you accept this nomination?
Yes, I do.
All right, so we've got 2 nominations here. I just want to clarify, because I want to clarify with the acting general manager what our procedure is going forward, because the problem is if we just vote and then there's uncertainty, you all look at me. So, acting general manager, would you like to confirm the next steps?
Sorry, can I nominate Councillor Wheatley if she wants to? No?
I'm going to stay out of this.
All right, so just
Okay, so acting general manager, we've got 2 nominations.
Can I ask a question? Sorry, given that, why can't we why can't we appoint, given that we have 2 outstanding candidates here, not saying that I'm not, I just don't want it, but can we nominate a chair and a deputy?
That would change the original motion.
Yeah,
We have to remove a decision. Can I ask a question? Could we appoint a co-chair?
Well, okay, so first of all, I'll just say, I understand where this is coming from, but we've already voted for points A to G here, of which point F says that the deputy chair will be a community member. Maybe councillors are community members, but I don't think that's the intent of the wording here. So, look, we've already voted on it, and short of rescinding or amending or something, it's a bit awkward, which puts us in this position of there's 2 nominations and something we have to resolve.
Is it legal to have a co-chair? Is it legal to have a co-chair for this committee? Oh, I beg your pardon.
I'll sort of defer that question to the Director of Community. What is your interpretation of the terms of reference?
Mr Mayor and Councillor said there would be no problem having co-chairs. That's just not something that we've done with our committees before, and I might defer to Mr Jones, but it would just mean changing the constitution to have co-chairs.
sorry, may I say? I'm sorry.
Acting General Manager, you were about to say something.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, I think the terms of reference is quite clear. The chairperson is the mayor or a councillor, and the chairperson is elected for a term, so the terms of reference were just adopted.
Thank you.
A question about the terms of reference. Councillors are members of the community as well. So is there anything preventing point F to be interpreted as including councillors, or would that be against the spirit of...
Sorry, can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure. If you think it's relevant, Councillor Spencer.
Yeah, it is relevant. So now this is following on from the suggestion from Councillor Taylor. So it is not uncommon to have co-chairs. So for instance, co-chairs, I understand your interpretation is that one councillor, one chair. So co-chair is two half chairs. That's one. Co-chair. They're not, well, they have to work together to be, so if that's the case, then may I nominate councillors Ward and K as co-chairs? So we have 3 nominees.
So technicalities, I'll run it past the acting general manager, who may differ. Response?
Sorry, Mr Mayor. So are you suggesting, Councillor, there's three nominations? Councillor Kay, Councillor Ward, and then co-chairs is the third option?
That's right, 3 nominees. Asking a question.
I'm really not sure. It's a bit confusing. Would it be, if you wanted to have co-chairs, maybe just resolve to have co-chairs?
I think so. If you want to have co-chairs, just move that you have co-chairs of Councillor Kay and Councillor Ward.
Oh, you'd almost rescind it and
Rescind
and then
rescind
urgency.
and remove.
Remove based on
Original.
urgency. Yeah. Does that work? Or? If Director of Community,
Fantastic.
Mr Mayor and councillors, once we do the expressions of interest process, we then have to report back to council. And we can include, if we, as part of this resolution now, that you say that that there be two co-chairs, we can then put that in the resolution when it comes back to council. And then council votes on it all together.
Yeah, can't we just bring it back and look at it in February then, in entirety? Because it's not like the chair's going to be doing anything in the time before February. We don't even have a committee.
so
I just think that would be a more peaceful resolution.
So are we just deferring this vote on the chair?
Yes. Yeah, yeah, thank you.
Question, so does that mean that we don't do the expressions of interest? We don't start the expression?
No, we are doing
Already
expressions
started
of
that?
interest. We are going to follow point C of this, but we're just not doing it today, which appears to be what every councillor wants to do. On that note,
Mr Mayor, excuse
yes,
me,
Councillor
I've
Smith.
had my light on for a little while. I would just like to ask a question, and I think I know the answer, but I'm actually interested in the response. Is a councillor a member of the community?
Question to the Director of Community, I guess, or to the Acting General Manager?
Mr Mayor, in the context of this terms of reference, I don't believe it's intended that a councillor can be honoured as a councillor and a member of the community. That's clearly not what was intended.
So to clarify, I'm looking at the terms of reference.
Thank you.
It says the mayor, it says all interested women on the elected council, and then it says a maximum of 15 community members representing a whole list of different people. So I guess on this particular occasion, looking at the terms of reference, a councillor wouldn't be considered as a member of the community for the purpose of this terms of reference. With that being noted, we'll move on to NM5. The former General Manager, John McKee, and Councillor Smith.
Yes, Mr Mayor, I would like to move NM5 and seek a seconder.
So, seconded by Councillor Wheatley. Councillor Smith.
Mr Mayor, it actually gives me great privilege here this evening to speak about our past General Manager. I think I'm just going to start off with a little bit of history on John McKee, the General Manager, or Johnny as he was referred to by many. John had a degree in business and industrial relations. He first started off as an analyst in Parramatta Council. Ku-ring-gai Council was very fortunate to gain John McKee as an analyst in 1998 in this council. It was quickly realised in 2001 that he was a great person to be put forward as Director of Finance, which again, he was somebody that was very recognised in 2001, between 2001 and 2006, that got these finances in this council in order. In 2006, the council then recognised and gave merit where merit was due and appointed him as to General Manager. From 2006 to 2023, Ku-ring-gai Council was very fortunate to have John McKee, or Johnny McKee, as the General Manager of his council. In this council, John managed, or has managed, approximately 500 people, which is, on all standards, is considered as a large organisation. Many challenges, both political and financial, which is a very, very difficult task for any general manager position in any organisation or even outside of government. John's ability to work with staff, I believe that there is very few people that could compete on the level that John managed the staff. John knew how to work with the people from the top, and he knew how to work with the people right down the bottom of the chain. In that, John was comfortable in both the chambers, he was comfortable to be in front of state representatives, he was comfortable being with directors, and he was just as comfortable as being in the depot amongst the staff that he very much respected, and they respected him. John has managed to show in this period of time a lot of humility that you don't see very often with general managers in other councils. John, in saying that, also knew how to take up a fight. That fight that he took up to the New South Wales state government when they wanted to merge both Ku-ring-gai and Hornsby Council. John was very well recognised for that and should be very respected as an ongoing, and Ku-ring-gai should be very thankful for what John has done for Ku-ring-gai. Only of recently we were advised from the Planning of Institute 2023 Australian Award, it was the Planning Institute 2023 Australians Award we received for the Linfield Village Green. This was under John's tenure as well. He's done many parks, he knows how to work with he's worked with the community to a level that was respected, that we've all witnessed, and have always been there to support John. I wish John all the best with what he endeavours to move forward in the future with. I know whatever John puts his mind to, he will do a very well job and will be respected and will move forward leaps and bounds. So for those reasons, I hope to get everybody's support here this evening on the notice of motion. I think he's done a fantastic job. I think he's done a job that we probably are going to find very hard to get somebody to replicate what he's done. So for those reasons, I put this notice of motion forward. Thank you.
Councillor Wheatley, a seconder.
I couldn't have said it better, Councillor Smith. All I wanted to say was that the list of many achievements during John's tenure was outstanding, and I 100% agree that the Mayor should write to John thanking him for his distinguished service over the last 25 years for the residents of Ku-ring-gai and also the Council.
Councillor Pettit, you're next.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and I just wonder if the mover and seconder of this motion might want to add in a point B, that the written thanks or distinguished service to the General Manager be published on the website and in the e-news.
I'd be quite happy for that, thank you.
Yes, I am. Concur.
We'll just wait till that comes up.
Councillor Pettit, would you like to now speak?
Absolutely. It was quite interesting through those couple of months there that we had a number of councillors talk glowingly about the General Manager and his achievements. Councillor Greg Taylor, how many times have we won the Blue Award?
I believe it was once.
Incorrect, twice. One of those was under the General Manager. We were also nominated in 2013 and won it in 2014. We heard the various pros and cons. We actually heard a lot of pros about the General Manager. But we heard nothing from those that wanted to sack him. Councillor Ward, why did you want to sack the General Manager?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I do not wish to answer that question. It's inappropriate.
Mr. Mayor, point of order. Under Code of Meeting Practice 9.18, the chairperson must not, etc., or refusal to reply to a question put to a councillor or a council employee. So you can't actually refuse to answer it under 9.18.
A councillor can reply in a way that he or she sees fit. But I will just look at 9.18 now. The chairperson must not permit discussion on any reply to or refusal to reply to a question put to a councillor or council employee. So when I read that, I must not permit discussion on any reply to or refusal to reply to a question to put, which is exactly what we're doing right now. So 9.18 isn't saying whether or not councillors are allowed to or not allowed to respond to a question. 9.18 is saying that the chairperson cannot permit discussion on whether or not something has been replied or refused to be replied to.
I'll ask the Acting General Manager, is that your position? Because it does say, or refusal to reply to a question put to a councillor.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with the Mayor's reading of that clause. A councillor may refuse to reply to a question and the Mayor must not permit any discussion about that.
Which we have just done, by the way.
Okay, so Councillor Ward, you don't want to answer why take the General Manager, which is disappointing because we've heard those in favour of it. Councillor Taylor, I can see you sighing. Was there any particular reason why you terminated the General Manager, Councillor Alec Taylor?
Yeah, I don't think this conversation is appropriate. I don't think this behaviour is appropriate.
It's just a fair question. We heard the pros. I mean, actually, Councillor Spencer espoused the General Manager for quite a length of time. He wasn't afraid.
Point of order.
I'm actually talking.
The question asker understands that this is all confidential information, so of course we're not going to be replying to it.
So is this a request to bring this into confidential? No, it's not. Okay.
Simple as that. Yeah. Certain councillors actually talked up the General Manager in his very long list of successes, but very few councillors were actually game enough to say why they got rid of him. We only had Councillor Alec Taylor on Facebook give a statement. Yourself, Mr. Mayor, you actually said you'd seen things, if others had seen what you'd seen, that you might have come to that same situation. Don't know what that is. And others remained silent, and that's pretty sad. You know, you should own the reasons why you terminated the General Manager. You were given many reasons to keep him.
Sorry, relevance?
It's actually talking to the long list of achievements. These are some of the achievements of why we kept and promoted retaining the General Manager. And I'm talking to those.
Sorry, can I still ask relevance? Because he is asking why we terminated the General Manager.
It's a rhetorical question.
But the General Manager has already been terminated.
It does seem to be slightly going off topic. Councillor Pettit, if you can stick on the topic.
We've got a long list of achievements there, which I'm sure John McKee will take to a new council, and it's going to be a bit of a challenge to get somebody with a long resume of so many successes to replace him. I don't see any negatives there, apart from councillors' desire to change the head of this particular council. The general layman would probably look at this and say, geez, he's done a good job. Why was he sacked? We can't answer that because most councillors remain silent, hoping that it will just disappear and go away. Our residents actually would like, am I boring you, Councillor Taylor? Sorry, you're yawning, I didn't want to interrupt you. Councillor Greg Taylor, you've written...
No, I'm not bored.
Okay.
Thank you, Councillor Pettit. I'm
That's
not bored at
quite
all. I'm mildly irritated. I perceive,
okay.
I'm answering your question. I perceive that you're asking us to trash the General Manager And frankly,
No, I'm not. I'm actually talking about all the
I think he
achievements
was
there.
fantastic. I think he did a great job. I think enough has been said on this matter.
No, that's.
I think
agree.
he was
I
not
think
the
you're
right person for the time, and I said that in my statement. And I think we've dealt with this issue. I don't think this conversation is in his interests, your interests, or the interests of Ku-ring-gai.
Well, I'm sorry that I'm wasting your time, Councillor Warder. However, I am actually quite comfortable at going through the long list of achievements, which actually Councillor Smith has alluded to as well too. This is extensive. You should be thanked for it. You shouldn't be just swept aside. It's like it never happened. By doing and supporting this motion, you will have actually recognised his distinguished service. Some of you will have experienced it for a short time, others for a lot longer time. Many of the staff here for a lot longer than all councillors concerned. So it is important that we recognise his service, despite what was done to him. We know he went through a difficult time, and we were all there supporting him, whether it be councillors, staff, across the board. It was probably not the way that John wished to leave the organisation. Now, I'm sorry if I'm harping on it, but it is important to recognise somebody's long achievements for this organisation. Thank you.
Councillor Alec Taylor, your light is on. Your light is off. I will now speak on, I haven't decided whether I'm for or against yet, but I would like to speak to clarify a few points on this matter. I do believe that John McKee has served the council for a period of time. His list of achievements, as well as the dates for his achievements, are provided in NM5. John McKee, the thing with public servants, and especially highly paid public servants, is that the public and as well the governing body have expectations of what is delivered. If you look at the Your Council website, you will be able to see how much John McKee was paid 2 years ago for his role, because it's got details on financials from 2 years ago. And with high pay comes great responsibility, great expectations. What happened at council 2 months ago was that there was a decision put before the governing body as to whether it was appropriate for John McKee to continue his service, or whether it was time for a bit of a change. And the governing body at the time, 2 months ago, voted for a bit of a change. I can't speak on behalf of any councillor here of why they voted in a certain way, but I can personally say that while there were a lot of questions in the public as to why things were happening, etc., one of the reasons why I withheld from commenting for such a long period of time is that when these sorts of things happen, I do want the best for someone who is moving on. And what the best for someone moving on is, well, the best isn't to have the name constantly popping up on social media, on local news, even on state news, the Sydney Morning Herald. Every time that happens, it has an impact. Sure, it benefits perhaps some councillors, but the impact on John is that it puts a little bit more on the public record, on national news, that there's something going on there. And if I was on another council seeking to employ a new general manager, and I had a choice of 2 equally qualified people, one who's had a bit of national media and one who hasn't, I'd perhaps take the safe route if they were in all other cases, in all other ways of equivalent character and competency. When it came to the termination of the general manager, and I hope I'm allowed to say this, there was a question that we asked internally, like my discussion with some of the staff, which was, is it appropriate to mention what has happened in a certain way? And the decision was that, look, we have to respect John's wishes. Does John want an acknowledgement? Or does John want to stay out of the limelight? And from what I understood from staff at the time was that John's view was that he wanted this to stay out of the limelight. Now, by dragging this out at the October council meeting, and now the November council meeting, and now even potentially putting it up on the council website or this and that, I understand the intent behind it, I understand the good wishes, but ultimately I do want John to have the best opportunity possible to continue employment in the local government sector if it is his will and if it is his wish. And I want to set him up for that. So all this politicization of recent events, it's not something I am comfortable with. There are reasons, for me anyway, why I was like this. I cannot speak on behalf of other councillors, but that is just that. So on that, I'm speaking against this motion. Councillor Spencer, you're next.
Thank you. I am speaking against this motion for several reasons. So firstly, if we put John aside, this motion is suggesting that over the last few terms, everything was John. There were no council, there were no mayors, there were no directors and no staff. I think if we venerate one staff above the other, we are sending a wrong signal to our present staff. And if there was something that Councillor Pettit said that I felt disturbed as well. He said, it's very hard to replace such a good man. I think we are sending a wrong signal as well. I think we have a lot of wonderful people here that are good, and they should be given an opportunity to excel as well. They should be recognized. Now, this is suggesting that John is the one that did everything single-handedly, and all the previous mayors were asleep. All the directors were asleep, no staff. Lingfield Village Green, whatever, John with a shovel, you know, plowing there and building some garden and so on. He's getting this award and that award and so on. But what about the staff? It's a teamwork, not one person. You have to thank the whole team, not just one person. One person cannot achieve this. So if this is true, it is all John, then we don't need to have council meetings anymore. We don't need directors, we don't need anyone. We will just have one person here. And that person may not necessarily be John as well. It could be another general manager or just one person. It doesn't work that way. It is a teamwork, and we have to acknowledge everyone. And some of the things that were said here, for instance, fighting amalgamation and so on, staff has no authority to challenge the state government. It is a council resolution. A lot of things that are said here are all a result of council resolutions. they are not just done by staff alone. So therefore, I think if we pass this resolution, we're sending, well, I agree with the mayor, what he said, that you are again bringing things to public, and it is not good for a person, dragging it out dredging it over and over again. And if we don't recognize and appreciate the staff that we currently have, we do not appreciate their worth, their capability, their ability, their prospects, and so on, we are sending the wrong signal. Okay, this person is gone, he's finished. You cannot operate by keep resurrecting the ghost of a manager from the past. It's finished. It's time to move on. Thank you.
Councillor Lennon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think Councillor Spencer's right. It is a team effort, and I think all the achievements that are listed there are quite rightly shared throughout the organisation. And it's the nature of everything. When someone in the library is providing good service, that person is providing good service, so is the manager in organising things. And the nature of responsibility in any organisation is that the chief executive is quite rightly held to account. So when we see an organisation achieving something, we say, yes, all those people involved in the particular action did well, and we support them. But so did every manager working their way up. So I think it's proper to look at the chief executive of any organisation and say, things were done well and that person should get credit. Right now we're seeing a lot of drama around Optus, and the chief executive is quite rightly being blamed for certain activities that have not gone well. And no one is suggesting that she should have been doing all the individual tasks, but there's a structure. I've worked with chief executives and other senior executives who quite openly say that they will appoint good people and then step back and do nothing. Now, in many cases, they don't know what their underlings have achieved, but quite rightly, they're given credit for it. If you're, as a manager or as a general manager, setting up a structure by which you are appointing the good people, somehow putting in place the arrangements by which the good people can do what they need to do, then the chief executive should get credit for it. And conversely, when things don't go well, the chief executive should, as in Optus's case, be held to account. So I support the motion. While agreeing with what Councillor Spencer has said, we should share the credit. But at the end of the day, the general manager is entitled, as the chief executive, to take the credit for the good and the blame for the bad, and I think overwhelmingly it has been good. And I know for a lot of people, the fact that we still have Ku-ring-gai, rather than being lost in an amalgamation of Hornsby, is certainly due to many people, but it's very much due to the leadership and the management skills of John McKee in bringing together the people that needed to do certain work, to giving them the tasks and making it work. So yes, give everyone credit quite rightly, but hold the general manager of any organisation accountable and responsible. So I support the motion. Thank you.
As there are no other speakers, I would... Councillor Kay.
I've just got a question through you, Mr. Mayor. Do we not thank the previous General Manager, John McKee, in the resolution where we decided to move him on?
We did thank the previous General Manager, but we did not write a letter that encompasses what this notice of motion suggests, and we didn't publish it on Council's website. Councillor Ward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We've been talking about Mr. McGee for a while now. I think it's really not in good form to be talking about him both in a positive manner and in a negative manner so publicly. I feel for him. From my understanding, Mr. McGee wanted to go quietly, and that is why there wasn't too much done publicly here. My question to you or to the Acting General Manager is, what was Mr. McGee's desire? And in relation to writing to him this kind of letter, wouldn't that be more like a reference rather than a public acceptance of his role?
On what Mr. McKee wanted, I'm not the best person to ask because I do not have direct contact. Acting General Manager, do you know who is the right person to? answer this question, if it's possible?
Mr. Mayor, I think it's a difficult question to answer as to what Mr. McKee would like. I'm sure if a letter was written by the council, he would appreciate it, but I really can't add much more.
Thank you.
And just adding to that, if Mr. McKee were to reach out to me and ask for a referral letter of some sort, I don't mind writing something, but just doing this whole very public thing is a bit it's a bit beyond what I understood. Councillor Alec Taylor.
Question through you, Mr. Mayor, to the Acting General Manager. Should we remove the reference to publishing a letter on the website and e-news?
That would be a question for the mover and seconder of the motion.
Thanks, Councillor Alec Taylor. I will personally choose to leave it in. The reason being is that John McKee served in this community, for such a long time, and there are still a lot of people out there that still think that John McKee is the General Manager here today. I think that it is important that we literally put it to bed, put it that it's actually happened, it's transpired, and move forward.
If there are no other questions, or you want to sum up? Councillor Smith, sum up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This, unfortunately, this evening got off track. This is not something that I wanted here this evening. This is purely an acknowledgement for a man who has served this council very well. And as that's been discussed here this evening, it has taken quite a number of councils working together, directors, and the General Manager has been there that entire time. I believe that a CEO in any position is a glue that holds this together, which, as I said there before, it's a very difficult role. It's a role in both political, which unfortunately we saw this evening, and both financial and everything. I believe the man has served it. I believe the man has done more and above what somebody would be expected to do in that role, and in the fact that he has got a great deal of respect of people around there. I do believe that the people would respect us as a council if we acknowledge the fact of the service that this man put into the area here. John McKee, to me, he tried to keep as much politics out of it as he could. Unfortunately, in local government, there is a lot of politics. I think it's important just for this council just to acknowledge it. And not that John McKee's rung me up and asked me for this, but I think anybody that has put in that type of service would expect to see something. Like I spent 10 years in New South Wales Fire Rescue. Well, actually it was 11 and a bit years, but in any case, after 10 years service, I got an acknowledgement letter from the Commissioner basically thanking me for my service. Not that I did anything that stood out. I think with everything that's gone on tonight, I think this is very disappointing that we got here where it did. I think we could send the man a letter. Thank you.
So, Councillor Smith has just summed up. And just as a quick comment, I'm sure that John McKee also could get quite good referral letters from a number of former mayors. But we are now putting this motion, NM5, to a vote. All those in favour, and that is Councillors Pettet, Lennon, Smith. Wait, just to clarify. It's on website, okay. That is Councillors Pettet, Councillors Lennon, Smith, Wheatley, Councillor Alec Taylor, Councillor Greg Taylor, Councillor Ward. Against, it is Councillors Kay, Spencer and Nye. So with that being said, the motion is carried. And I will write the letter and publish it on Council's website and e-news as stated in the motion. We now move on to business without notice. Is there any business without notice subject to clause 9.3 of the Code of Meeting Practice? No. Questions with notice? Are there any questions with notice? No. And site inspections, there haven't been any. Just as other business, I would just like to announce that our Director of Operations, George Bonassif, has accepted an offer to work at the City of Parramatta Council in the role of Executive Director of City Assets and Operations. This is a very significant achievement for George, with a larger scope of responsibility at a much larger city council. And I am personally very pleased to see George step up to this new opportunity. George has made a fantastic contribution to our council during the 5.5 years that he has been here. He really gets the job done, and it's hard to find anyone who has anything ill to say about him. During this time, he has demonstrated his hunger to deliver, and I'm not surprised at all that he has taken on this next role, which is an opportunity which could not be provided here at Ku-ring-gai. The local government sector is like a family. We are always keen to develop our people, share ideas of best practice, and promote career opportunities that are in the best interest for each employee's professional development. George is here with us till the end of the year, and on behalf of Council, I'd like to thank him for his contribution. Now, there being... Oh, you can clap if you want. There being no further business, I would like to thank...
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, is it possible to have some kind of motion expressing our gratitude and respect, or is that not the normal? Next month, there we go.
Oh, let's do it next meeting. He might blow things up before then, who knows? So, yeah, so save it for next meeting. Okay. Save it for the next meeting. Now, there being no further business, I would like to thank councillors and staff. I would also like to thank members of the public for their attendance. Earlier on in the meeting. They are still watching. The webcast of this meeting will be available on the council website, and minutes will be published within the next 2 working days. I declare the meeting closed at 10:13 p.m.